if like copyright laws weren't a thing, I'd say open up every Friday show. It's Friday again. No Saturday, Sunday. It's Friday again.
I think you can do that.
No, you can't.
No?
Well, he's singing a song. You're not aware that that's actually a song.
No, I am aware that that's a song.
Sounds like the MJ intro. From North Carolina, 6'6" guard.
Okay, Felipe. All right, let's just
10 seconds. We'll lift off.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Football Friday edition of Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. What is it, Mark?
It's a Football Friday.
There we go. We
got to be some grit today, David. A little playoff football. It's wild card. It's super wild card weekend.
Emphasis on the super wild card weekend. 6 games. We only got 13 of these suckers left, and 6 of them are happening in the next 72 or so hours. So gear up. Take them in. Cash in some chips if you need to. Start 2022 at a deficit with a special someone in your life. You can make up for it in February and March and April, May, June, July, August, for that matter.
Which is all a crock. It's a total crock. You do this every year, and it is the biggest bunch of baloney that has ever been uttered out of anyone's mouth. Because once the season ends, around Valentine's Day, we've got a couple of weeks before we start getting ready for this little basketball tournament. Once that little basketball tournament ends, we've got this little golf invitational that they have in Georgia. After that, we have this event 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where they do some drafting, not of beer, of athletes. So you can catch back up around July.
Well, come on. Things open up in May and June then.
Unless you're a hockey or basketball fan, in which you'll be in the height of the playoffs for both of those sports.
Well, wow. You make a dadgum good point.
It's all right. You have us. We're all together in this. Don't worry about that special someone. You'll get an hour here, an hour there. You'll wink, nod, act like you like it, and you're just waiting to get the television on to watch sports. That's all.
I guess it turns out that really the sports fan, it's kind of like going to school. You've got 10 weeks from mid-June to the end of August.
That's right. You know what? And that's the month of August is the most underrated family month that there is, because preseason football does not matter. You can pick up the paper and find out who was injured. Well, you can't pick up the paper. We don't have those anymore, but you got the point.
Oh, come on now. We've got them. Along the I-75 corridor, it's going to be the last New York Times, Washington Post, and the I-75 corridor. It's going to be the last newspapers left in this country.
You know what, David? You make a dadgum good point. We are in the newspaper mecca of the United States.
Yes, we are.
Miller and Moulton, out of the last 2 places papers will exist, the Naples Daily News and the Tampa Times. That's it. It's not fair that St. Pete stole the name from the Tampa. It should be the St. Pete Times.
Well, it was.
I know.
It was. Now I believe it, they do the whole Tampa Bay thing, incorporating both,
I got you, but
pretending as if there's not angst from one side towards the other.
you see the point that I'm making, though. The last
Yeah.
two papers should be in St. Pete and Naples, not in Tampa and Fort Myers, if you know what I mean. It's not a knock on either. It's just that the two communities are a touch older than the other two communities.
Right. Miller and Moulton on this Football Friday. Good show lined up for you. Pat Kirwan will join us for a half an hour at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. We will head to both Indianapolis and Dallas. Are the Cowboys ready for a Super Bowl run? Their owner says they are. And, oh, yeah, that Super Bowl run for the Colts. Boy, that ended quickly.
Man, I was on top of that hill. I was leading the charge down that hill.
Yes, you were.
And I ran into sniper fire, David, and I was taken down.
Yep. And
by Trevor Lawrence.
We all saw that one coming. I mean, I will say the Chiefs are a 12.5-point, 13-point favorite on the Steelers. Remember, the Colts were a bigger favorite last week in Jacksonville. So
yes, you're right.
It's possible.
It is possible. I just can't imagine it happening.
Right. No, none of us can, but just pointing out, I mean, the Jags were a bigger dog last week than the Steelers are Sunday. So
were they a 14-point dog?
Yeah, 14 and a half at home.
That had to have been the biggest this of the season.
I think it was by spread the biggest upset of the year. I mean, the first half.
I don't know what was the Jags Bills.
Yeah, that's good. I thought it was a touch less. A touch, but not much. Because the Jags had won the one game in London. So I think it brought it down to just under 14. Ooh-wee. So just some perspective. 2 games not expected to be close, Chiefs and Bucks, and otherwise the other 4 games all have point spreads between like 3 and 5.5. So Miller and Moulton on this Football Friday, which we will get to in due time, but we do need to talk about what is arguably the biggest story in sports. And Spitz in our Twitch chat room thinks it is. While you were sleeping, Novak Djokovic had his visa revoked in Australia.
It would be a bigger story if it wasn't so damn comical, David. I mean, it is the biggest story in sports, but this thing has turned into a bit of a laugh fest.
A bit. The one thing I will say, can you imagine if this was happening in this country? What the reaction would be by us of as divided and as polarized as we are.
Okay, you don't think it would stay as divided and polarized as it is? Do you think we'd be united on this front? Because all I know is that the biggest media personality in the world thinks he should never be allowed to play in a tennis tournament again for the rest of his life. And it's stated so on his show. I mean, that's Howard Stern, who doesn't do sports, and I'm not sure, but Howard Stern, who's, still pretty big in this business, claims that Joker should never be allowed to play in a tennis tournament again. You this morning uttered the words to me, if they don't let him play what, David? He should.
There's a part of me where if I was Djokovic, I'd be like, listen, if I can't play in this tournament, that I don't know if I'll ever be back.
Right. I've broken all the rules. I've lied about it. Then I lied again. I doubled down with my lies, and they're going to kick me out, and I'm going to hold it against them. Now, I think this is laughable, but the fact that they're kicking him out, how he's even in this is beyond me.
Well, that's...
Lied on his paperwork. Lied when he was asked about questions. I mean, he is a bold-faced liar, David.
But basically, the Australian Supreme Court gave him clearance to play.
Before they knew of all of his lies.
Listen, I'm not taking his side. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. But my point is that in Australia, they are seemingly united about COVID. We obviously in this country are polarized about it. So as big of a story as this is down under, all right, can you imagine what it would be like if this was happening? Like last year, Djokovic went to the U.S. Open with a chance to win the Grand Slam. I mean, imagine what it would be like now if it was last year's U.S. Open and we were, depending on the day of the week, he was allowed in the country, not allowed in the country. He was in the tournament. He was out of the tournament.
But the reasons he's not in and out of the tournament is his own doing, and he fabricated his stories throughout this whole thing.
But don't you think fascinating may be one word, but he's in the tournament. They did the draw. He's scheduled to play Monday.
The Australian Open desperately wants Joker in the tournament, David. I get that. He's the number one player in the world. We all want the number one player in the world in our tournament. It seems as if the rest of the country does not want him there. I mean, there are definitely two factions here at work. There's the Australian Open that's doing everything possible to get them in the tournament. And the Australian government is trying to keep him from the tournament. Australian media is against Djokovic being in the tournament, by and large. I mean, they're pretty much all on the same page with this.
Yeah, except the highest court in their land, all right? And, I mean, the tournament did ultimately allow him in. They conducted the draw with him in it. I just find it fascinating.
And I'm with you there. But I love the fact that they've pulled this at the 11th hour. I mean, this is the juiciest part of this.
Those in the know down under say that by them waiting as long as they did to revoke his visa a second time, that Djokovic and his legal team do not have enough time to be able to overturn this action and stay in the country and stay in the tournament. That it's apparently a two-part process and that they think he can get the first part done. But remember, we're heading into a weekend. In fact, in Australia, the weekend's already begun. And so the thought is he's not going to be able to win this. And they got him. They stuck it to him.
I will say, the Australian Chambers of Commerce do not need to buy any television ads in Serbia anytime soon.
No.
Because the whole country has now boycotted Australia.
Yes.
That's the other part of this. This is like Wag the Dog. I'm waiting for the fake war to start between Serbia and Australia over the Australian Open. Hey, wait, we're going to start a war with Canada? What?
Right. Albania? What'd they ever do to us? We're going to war with Albania. For those that don't know the movie Wag the Dog, all right, the last 20 minutes is really hokey. The first hour and 15 is tremendous.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I combined Canadian Bait or whatever. One we started the war with Canada and Wag the Dog in the same one there. I just combined two cheesy movies into one big ball there.
And besides, it's a couple of countries we really don't have much of a beef with. So, right. It works out the way. But Djokovic has had his visa revoked and faces deportation. The tournament gets underway in 72 hours. And apparently this is really happening. Miller and Moulton on what is otherwise a Football Friday.
Football Friday.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Steve, are you sure this wasn't in the Twitch chat room? You're actually listening on the radio? Because if I was on in here, I should be on in here.
He was muted.
I think they heard me in here, David, and freaked out.
Somebody in the Twitch chat room said, Mark, you were on the air just then.
I know, but I was speaking in here, David. If they heard me in here, that's why I'm trying to ask. When I'm at home, they should be able to hear me in here all the time.
Right.
Steve, was it on the radio? See, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what
Sorry.
That's when I'm here, David. Just like when you're on the road, you should be able to talk in the Twitch chat room throughout.
Oh, I know. Steve just.
I know. That's why I asked him the question.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Adam,
sorry, Felipe.
That's fine.
He said on the air.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes, Adam. The ads have returned after taking a day hiatus.
Yeah, we figured it all out after the show yesterday, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thank goodness. I mean, David was all over it. I didn't have it right. Felipe didn't have it right. If we'd have just listened to Moulton, damn it.
Well,
Makes me irritated. We just need to go to our tech guy more often.
it was a two-part process, and I'm always good for the first part, which is turn it off, turn it on.
I was just giving you credit there, David.
No, and I was taking half of it.
What is this? Look at that. All right, we need followers. Let's go, Twitch. Let's go. Tell a friend. Phone a friend.
Thank you for being a friend.
Since we have the cats now, Johnny Mac, Frank is not allowed upstairs.
Oh,
Too many delicious ingredients in the litter box for him.
Do you have a fence?
Yeah. We got the gate on the stairs, which for the most part, he's pretty much fine with. He's old.
Yeah, I was going to say at his age. I mean,
the stairs are, he can make it into the bed. That's all that really matters. He's not been happy though, because I've had to sleep upstairs the last couple nights. And he's like, what the hell's going on around here?
Right. You guys aren't allowed to do this.
This has got me all messed up. I think you don't like me. I don't see you for like 8 hours now.
Although, I mean, you're home during the day. Of course, all he wants to do is sleep. But
I'm home during the day anyhow.
Right. No, that's what I mean. I mean, he's got you during the day. He's had a good run with you here.
Oh yeah, he's the animal. The animals are very happy with me. Thanks, Spitz. That was a Moulton buy in Seattle last year. I was thinking about that. I'm going to be handing you money about I'm going to try to go the Kay Adams route and just a different team shirt every day of some team.
I'll have to get some more stuff.
That's what I mean. I'm just going to start handing you money when you travel. Because I'm partial, though. There's certain teams I would never wear their stuff.
Right. But ladies and gentlemen, I knew Mark would be all over the Kraken stuff. They unveiled that stuff.
Oh,
and we all
that logo. I was like, that is a home run, baby.
Yep. And
Trust me, Johnny Mac, the cats run the show, not the dog. See if I can get a cat in here this morning.
Are you going to mention Football Friday again?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're back in 15.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
Approaching 21 minutes after the hour. Top of the morning to you, Miller and Moulton, here on the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. Mark, I don't know if you noticed during that first segment, but the third member of our team, I always love when the NFL broadcasters say that. And now down to the sidelines for the third member of our team. But Felipe interjected a couple of sound effects during our opening monologue.
Well, not just that. There were sound effects, and he interjected.
Right.
He just kind of just opened the mic and let sounds rip. He didn't say any words. He just let sounds come out.
Well, first off, he was early today, and he showed up with breakfast. So he's fired up. He looks like he got a good night's sleep. It's arguably the best he's appeared all week behind the glass. He looks fairly fresh. He's got food with him. He's raring to go.
Okay.
And so right before we came out of break, I don't know if you heard it, he said, hey, are you two going to say Football Friday again?
Yeah, I heard him. I am of the opinion right now that I want Felipe to be kind of like one of the Danettes. I think he needs to raise his hand before he speaks.
So I sheepishly, and I'm not normally sheepish on my own show, but I sheepishly said, yeah, at which point he hit this button. So the youngin is really fired up this morning.
He is taking his artistic liberties very seriously from day to day.
Yes. It's professionally for Felipe, his first super wild card weekend.
Very true. And it's our first super wild card weekend as well, isn't it?
Well, in our third act, we had one no. Do we have one last year? Yeah.
Yeah, they extended the playoff last year.
Yeah, they extended it last year. So it's our second super wild card weekend.
Sorry, never let cats in the studio. The cat just knocked me right off the air, David.
No.
I don't know what button the cat hit, but all of a sudden StreamYard just disappeared.
During the commercial break, and for those of you that watch and follow us on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel, and remember, Miller and Moulton have a bet against one another. I'm betting against us. Mark is betting for us. And it's, can we get 1,000 followers by July 4th? We're at just under 700 now. And Mark said, you know what we need? We need cats. Let me bring a cat in here.
There was a request for the dog.
Right. So Mark brought the cat on, started petting the cat, and then all of a sudden the cat pressed a button, and, well, we lost Mark.
The cat loves editing. Whenever I'm doing any podcast editing up here, the cat is fascinated by the computer and crawls around and, well, apparently was fascinated with you because it made a move right to where the monitor has the two of us and knocked me right off the air.
It did, but you're back obviously now. You know who's not going to be back? David Culley in Houston. And I don't know, did you remember how we ended our show yesterday? We had about a minute left, and we had covered just about everything that we wanted to cover. And I looked at you and said, well, since it's Thursday, I think David Culley is going to survive in Houston. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
That was at 9:55 a.m.
You're right, because I remember giving you Jay Glazer's number that he said on Sunday. He said he thought he had a 1 in 4 chance of being fired.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And well, that one came.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Early afternoon yesterday, I think 4 hours, maybe tops, after I said, since they haven't fired him by now, I think David Culley's going to survive in Houston.
Hey, what does the NFL stand for again?
Not for long.
There you go.
But what most people are concluding, Mark, and let me ask you, is that Nick Caserio didn't want David Culley to be his head coach last year. He wanted one or two other people who contractually were not available. And now one of those people is available. And if he ends up hiring that person, Mark, while it's a little messy and awkward, and certainly David Culley was done wrong, isn't that okay, though, in the grand scheme of things?
I guess, David. I guess. But sometimes you don't get the guy you want, and you hire someone, and then that person exceeds your expectations of what you thought they could do. Everybody thought that the Houston Texans were on the clock. And all they did this year was seemingly play harder as the year progressed. Now, this is all about Deshaun Watson, I guess. Maybe they think whoever it is they can bring in can fix that situation and keep Deshaun Watson, and Culley wasn't going to be able to. Because that seems to be everything they're doing right now is a move to try to keep Deshaun Watson. And David, if that's what happens, then they did the right thing. They did. Because thinking Jimmy G, this Mills guy, he did enough, David, that someone's going to be interested in what the young quarterback in Houston did this year. Don't you believe?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's first-round draft pick worthy, but you might get a second or a third for him if you want to get rid of him at all.
It's funny. I didn't look at this and think Deshaun Watson. I'm still thinking that they're going to peddle Deshaun Watson. That if I'm running the Texans, I'm going to get multiple draft picks out of this, and I'm going to unload $39 million a year off my cap for the next 4 years. And I got a third-round pick who's on a rookie deal for the next 3 years, making less than $1 million a year as my quarterback.
Maybe. But if the story's out there that Flores had the relationship with Watson and that's who they're looking to get, to me, there's got to be part of this that's about keeping Deshaun Watson, David.
No.
And maybe I'm completely nuts.
No. I mean, at this point, first off, it's Deshaun Watson may not have any other options also. I mean, that's the other thing. Nothing has transpired on that story front in 10 months, which is remarkable in and of itself. That 10 months could go by and Deshaun Watson is no closer to being back in the NFL or a team trading for him, etc. But so that's 8, right? That's a quarter of the league that just got gassed.
And we still don't know what's going to happen in Vegas.
Well, all right. I think Vegas is part of the 8. Quick math.
Okay, you're right, because we already had we put Vegas and Jacksonville on from the get-go. You're right.
So Vegas, Jacksonville, Chicago, Minnesota, Denver. That's 5. The Giants are 6, Houston is 7, Miami is 8.
Correct.
But that's a quarter of the league. And
by the way, when we were making that, sorry, David, we were making our little bet. What are we going to have more of? New head coaches or new starting quarterbacks? And we thought it was going to be quarterbacks not close. I still think it'll be quarterbacks, but it's going to be really close.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And, I still think there's a chance that somebody coaching in the playoffs could lose in the first round and lose their job. And I'm not talking about Bisaccia with the Raiders. He doesn't count. I mean, I think if Dallas loses, Mike McCarthy is not a sure thing to return. And I don't know if Kingsbury's a sure thing to return either, because that means they would end the season with losing 5 of their last 6.
And think of how they've ended the last 2 seasons. While they did get into the playoffs this year, it's 2 years in a row that they have had horrific last half of the seasons. And 1 year got into the playoffs if they lose in 1 game, another year missed the playoffs because of how the season ended for the Arizona Cardinals. The starting 5 coming up on the other side. As we get everyone ready, we'll get a poll question and start locking in for a Football Friday, David. Sound about right to you?
Love it.
Miller and Moulton. Miller and Moulton right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove, with a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals. The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods.
Chris, I know you want Ross to sell the team, but just because you want that to happen,
and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial.
There's only 32. They don't get rid of them.
Miller 10.
There's only 31 that are really
$20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
By the way, the Jags-Buffalo line was 14.5.
Okay, so it was the same.
Yeah, just for what it's worth.
Okay, well, we'll clarify that.
But 14.5 was the largest one
of
the season.
And the Jags won twice.
And weren't they home for both of those games?
Yes.
Yes.
That's crazy. Rare good weekend for the Jags.
Yeah, they only had 3.
They got to win the first pick, and Trevor Lawrence looked good.
Yeah, but here's he's going to die, but it's not that like they're going to sell it. Usually the family keeps it.
I don't think there's anyone in Ross's family that wants the team. I thought I read that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that. So I think when he dies, the team's going to go up for sale.
Well, there you go, Chris.
I thought I read that like a year ago.
And Adam, I think you're crazy.
No way, Adam. That there is great working relationship. In fact, the coach was the one who handpicked the GM. No.
What was your poll question yesterday? It was way better than mine. Got no votes. Which teams got the best shot of winning?
Yeah, which road team the best shot at winning, and we listed the 4
right.
So it was Vegas, New England, San Francisco, Arizona. Road team with the best shot at winning.
I get the hashtag Super Wildcard Weekend. That's pretty much made my day.
Look at that. No, I mean, Chris,
There we go. All right, we can leave that up. Today is Friday, so one day. And we're about 5. When's the first game start? 4 o'clock?
Yeah, 4:30.
All right, there we go.
First game today's at 4?
No, tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
Till the old man dies, Chris. Yeah, you are. He's a bad owner. And unfortunately, it seems that there's a lot of them. See, first you have to be really smart to get into the Billionaires Club, and then you can be a bad owner.
$30 seconds. Mario Chalmers. Five.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
23 minutes before the hour. Thanks for being with us on this Football Friday.
Football Friday.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Before we get to the starting five, do want to clarify something. We were talking earlier and just making the point that, hey, none of us think the Steelers are going to beat the Chiefs, but they're only a 12.5-point dog, and it was just last week that the Colts is a 14.5-point dog, or favorite, lost. And Mark looked up and said, yeah, there was another team that was that big of a favorite and lost.
And it was the Bills against those same Jags. The world beaters that are the Jacksonville Jags, winning 2 games when being a 14-plus point underdog. And they beat the Dolphins, too.
In London, which turned out at the end of the day to be the game that kept the Dolphins out of the playoffs. Without further ado, it is time for
The starting five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the starting 5 on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Texans fired David Culley after just 1 year on the job. He won more games than most thought they were going to win this year, 4, and he successfully developed the 3rd-round draft pick at quarterback in Davis Mills, who was probably the second-best rookie quarterback this year. I mean, Mark, not that we think he's going to be the second-best quarterback out of this draft class, but better rookie year, Davis Mills, Trevor Lawrence.
Davis Mills.
Yeah. Yeah. Davis Mills, Zach Wilson.
It's not close. It's Mills.
Yeah. I mean, only Mac Jones at the quarterback position outperformed Davis Mills this year.
And not by a ton, by the way.
Yeah, Patriots did lose 3 of their last 4, and Mac's numbers in the last month, a little shaky. Nick Cesario's the GM of Houston. He came from New England, and the thought is that he's got his eyes on a former Patriot. Whether it's Brian Flores, how interesting would that be, Mark? You know, the Dolphins, this whole tear-down rebuild that Flores was there for was all off the back of all those draft picks from the Houston Texans.
And then finally he'll get to coach Laramie Tunsil.
And possibly Deshaun Watson. But also Gerard Mayo has been mentioned, who I believe is the current linebacker coach for the Patriots. J.J. Watt, remember him? He practiced yesterday on a limited basis, tore up his shoulder, had what most thought was season-ending surgery, but there was a hope maybe to be back for the playoffs. He is trying to play Monday night against the Rams. Left tackle Trent Williams will play Sunday afternoon for the Niners against the Cowboys. And we will talk to Derek Schultz in a couple of hours from the Indianapolis Star. But, Mark, the Colts came out yesterday and would not fully commit to Carson Wentz as their quarterback next year.
I understand it, but basically with the trade that they made and giving up the pick that they did and saying, wow, we got a rental that didn't get us to the playoffs and lost a first-round pick. Congratulations, everyone. You get Rice-A-Roni.
First and a third is what Wentz will cost them in this year's draft. Chris Ballard, the GM, tried to say, listen, I'm not going to talk about anybody, not just Wentz. I'm not going to go player by player and you ask me whether or not I think they're going to be back this year. I'm not going to do that. But he had a chance to say, oh, yeah, Carson's our quarterback, and he didn't say it. College football news, Jameson Williams, a day after it was determined he tore his ACL in the national championship game, the Alabama wide receiver will, in fact, enter the NFL draft. Mark, if your medical people told you, listen, we think he'll recover from the surgery and he'll be, what he was, but I don't know if we're going to get anything out of him in 2022. If you're drafting in the top 15, would you still draft him?
No.
If you were drafting in the bottom 17, would you draft him?
Now we're in a different situation.
Okay. There you go.
Team with a lot of depth. Kansas City might be able to put a really talented guy on their roster for Mahomes in 12 months. So, yes, I would consider it there.
I'm wondering, because remember, the Dolphins don't have their own pick. They have the Niners, but could he fall as far as where the Dolphins are going to be picking in the first round in the early 20s is the expectation. Lane Kiffin hired his brother Chris to be the co-defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. Penn State running back Noah Cain. Yeah, he was in the transfer portal a day. The Baton Rouge native transferred to LSU. And Virginia quarterback Brendan Armstrong, who's been there 4 years, has said, you know what, I'm going to come back for a fifth. And good news for the Gators, the Sun Belt Freshman of the Year, Louisiana running back Montrell Johnson, who scored 11 touchdowns last year, is following his former coach, Stu Gainesville. He transferred.
Roster already getting better in Gainesville, getting some guys from Louisiana.
Right. Well, let's face it.
Hey, I'm not lying.
If the Ragin' Cajuns had played the Gators last year, how much do you think the Ragin' Cajuns would have won by?
What would the line have been? Gators by 3, and we would have been jumping all over Louisiana?
Yes, absolutely. Totally with you. College basketball last night, couple of upsets. DePaul jumped out big on Seton Hall and held off the 20th-ranked Pirates by 4.
Best game of the night, David. You know why? It started at 6:30.
That's a theme, ladies and gentlemen.
The Big East is Florida approved. I just want to let everybody know that. The Big East is a Florida-approved basketball conference.
Got that right. Game's over 8:30-ish. If they go overtime, they're over by 9, and you can go to bed. And their morning sports talk show host approved also, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. At least half the show loves the Big East, and the other one's from the Big East.
Hey, the Ducks went into Pauley Pavilion and upset third-ranked UCLA in overtime, 84-81.
Thank goodness that that is not a dome stadium in LA, because they wouldn't be having the Super Bowl. I'm watching that game last night because it was on after Bruins and Flyers. There's no fans. No fans.
Right.
For college basketball game at Pauley Pavilion. You know, they've done a few things there.
Right. Yep. You mentioned the Super Bowl and Los Angeles. The NFL did say yesterday, yeah, we're going to have the game here. Don't worry. Good one in the Big Ten last night. A pair of ranked teams. Wisconsin beat Ohio State by 10, 78-68. For those wondering, we've been keeping track. A good night for college basketball last night. Just 8 of the 72 scheduled games were not played. Only 11% of the games were postponed. In the state of Florida, basically everybody who played lost. FGCU lost by 24 to Kennesaw State. That's a terrible loss. FAU lost by 13 to Middle Tennessee State, and FIU lost by 28 to UAB.
That's a terrible loss, too.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I just wanted to make some of the other initial schools feel as good as you made FGCU feel about their loss there.
Terrible. Speaking of the NBA, Cam Reddish traded by the Hawks to the Knicks for a first-round pick. Oklahoma City beat Brooklyn in Brooklyn by 21. That's a scheduled game. Brooklyn had played in Chicago the night before, and 130-109 the final there. Milwaukee blew out Golden State by 19. Memphis won their 11th in a row. They beat the Timberwolves by 8. Pelicans all over the Clippers by 24. Denver by 32 over the Lillard-McCollum-less Blazers. NHL, all 11 games were played last night. How about that? Been a long time since we could say that.
It really is, David. That's as impressive as anything they've done this season.
The Lightning doubled up the Canucks 4-2. Stamkos with his 18th goal. He leads the team on the season. He's on pace for about 38. Tuukka Rask returned for the Bruins. He stopped 25 shots, and they got a hat trick from Pasternak in a 3-2 win over the Flyers. Kings whooped up on the Penguins. LA's playing better, 6-2, and the Rangers, one of 3 shutouts on the night, shut out San Jose 3-0. Have you paid attention to this NHL All-Star Game format?
Well, they've been doing the 3-3 division things and all that. I will say the other one in there, Columbus beat Carolina 6-spit last night.
Yes, they did.
I mean, Carolina's one of the best teams in the league, and they got whacked last night by Columbus. That one stunned me a little bit.
In Raleigh.
Right.
Jonathan Huberdeau, Victor Hedman, and Andrei Vasilevsky are the 3 Panthers/Lightning players who were selected to the All-Star game yesterday. That leaves a whole hell of a lot of Lightning and Panthers who probably should be in the game who are not. And in fact, Barkov and Stamkos are both on the last man in ballot. So one of them could be voted into the game. But the NHL does something that I hate, Mark. Major League Baseball does it as well. They make sure that there's at least one player from every team in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Brad Marchand didn't get in. He's having a great year. They're playing great.
Yeah, there's quite a few guys who normally, would be in who are not close to being in.
Part of the problem is when you have a lot of good players, you don't get players, all the ones in that should be in.
Major League Baseball owners had a proposal for the players yesterday. They hadn't talked to one another since December 2nd. The players didn't like most of what the owners proposed. And that's a shocking development. The big one is the players think 6 years until you become a free agent is too long. And the owners in this proposal are sticking with 6 years. And the players have indicated that, if that's not knocked down at least a year, I don't see how we're going to get a deal. the thought is these two sides need to have a deal by February 1st, or else the start of spring training is in jeopardy. Does anybody really think they're going to make a deal in 17 days?
No. I mean, people were chiming in with possible poll questions yesterday all over the map. But, David, what's going to happen first, the British Open or Major League Baseball's first pitch? That's how I think the negativity is starting to flow for the diehard baseball people, if you know what I mean.
The thought is February 1st, they have to have an agreement for a normal spring training. March 1st, they have to have an agreement for a full season starting on time. We have been of the belief that we're not going to have Major League Baseball much before May.
And I don't think we're going to have spring training in Florida, period.
Well, I don't think we're going to have games. I think that they're going to, the teams are going to congregate in Florida and Arizona, and they're going to work out, and they may do a whole bunch of intra-squad stuff, maybe some teams that are nearby. I mean, I will say everybody in Arizona is within 20 minutes of each other.
Right.
In theory, you could do it.
And there's a few pods in the, along I-75, like the Braves and Rays could play, the Twins and Red Sox could play, the Phillies, Yankees, and a couple others that are in the Tampa area. We all know who the suspects are.
Right. I mean, there's a team in Sarasota and a team in Bradenton. Goodness knows the Orioles and the Pirates could play a bunch of games against one another just to get in shape. Sony Open yesterday. For the longest time, did you see who was the leader? Jim Furyk.
No, he had an ace yesterday.
He finished at 8 under, along with Russell Henley. He's tied for second, one shot back of defending champion Kevin Na, who opened up with a 9 under round in Honolulu. And finally, we'll say it again. While you were asleep, Djokovic had his visa revoked in Australia. As of right now, he is both A, still in the field for the Australian Open, and B, must leave the country. And the thought is that Djokovic does not have enough time legally to extricate himself from this second mess. The tournament starts Monday morning, about 60 hours from now, down under. And at 8 minutes before the hour, that was
the starting five every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
So, we'll know, Mark, by the time we're on the air next Monday morning, the Australian will already be underway. And, he'll either be in or out.
Is being deported from Australia like getting kicked out of the best bar in the world at midnight? I mean, are you at Fountain Blue in the cool section and then they just walk you out right now as 10 models are walking? Is that what's going on? I don't seem to understand the complexity of deportation, David.
Right. Like when we were on South Beach there for the Super Bowl and they let us stay till close at 4. It would have been like if they had tapped us on the shoulder at 1:30 and said, you guys have to leave. What are you talking about? We've got good parking. We're dressed appropriately. What do you mean?
It's exactly what I'm talking about. You're gone. Everybody else can stay.
It's funny, there are countries out there in which if you get deported, we all kind of go, okay. But yeah, Australia. I mean, they're so nice, mate.
Right. It's like getting kicked out of Minnesota.
Right.
You just don't see it happen. It can be done, David. It can happen, but you don't really suspect that that's where things are going.
No, you figure it has to be a Packers, a Bears fan, or a Badger fan the week they're playing for the Axe.
Well, hey, when they're playing for the Axe, Katie bar the door, David. I mean, come on.
And you know what? Come to think of it, a few days right before Iowa and Minnesota play for Floyd the Pig, they get a little restless there too.
Pigs, axes, oh my.
Miller and Moulton. All right, we got 6 NFL games. We'll unveil a poll question. We'll start breaking the games down. We're an hour away from Pat Kirwan. We'll head to Indianapolis. We'll head to Dallas. Got a lot going on here on a Football Friday edition of Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled, marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Okay.
What?
On the computer that I'm on, I lost the Twitch feed. On the other computer, it's fine.
That's a you thing.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I would refresh the page.
I did. It's working its way through.
So there's a dad on TikTok that I follow that tells reasonably funny jokes. And I said to my son, and he gives the joke line, and my son said, and his son will have an answer, and his is always Spencer. And he always does I said, no, dummy. Everyone, long break. I said, no, dummy. Now I'm wondering if he's channeling his inner Fred Sanford. Seems a little young for it. I see what you did there, Arch. Look at that, Napper. You turn on for 2-3 minutes and you get Iowa talk. The ghost of Chuck Long there for you, Napper.
Look at you.
So, Napper, if we would have had cell phones texting instead of the notebooks back in high school, who would have left their phone somewhere where the people who found the notebook would have found one of our phones, me or you? I'm going with me because I lose everything. I'm going to tell you, that coffee's so good this morning, I might throw a little Bailey's in it before the show's over.
Do you wait to the bonus hour? That's the question.
If I do, it would be for the bonus hour.
Okay. It's like the third period of the final period of a road trip.
Exactly. It's like doing the third period for the North Charleston Coliseum, David.
On a Sunday afternoon. 3 games in less than 48 hours.
We did a Sunday afternoon at Hara Arena in Dayton, Ohio, run with the Nashville Knights, and George Kozak was our assistant. I don't even know how he got the assistant coaching job. I don't think Cozy knew hockey all that well. But anyhow, he got kind of grandfathered in with the team, and he'd travel every once in a while. And he was never on the bench, but he would come do color with me. And they had the Bombers Club. They were the Dayton Bombers. And the Bombers Club was right behind the press box. And I walked back in between the first and second. They have all this food. They have all this drink. And I realized it's all free. And I mean, Kozak and I started drinking Sunday afternoon matinee in the first intermission. By the time that game was over, he and I were both bombed on the air. I don't think there were a lot of people listening to Dayton, Nashville on a Sunday afternoon.
Right.
I believe it's on TuneIn, on the TuneIn radio app. I would imagine one of the 2 stations we're on's on there bopping.
30 seconds.
I've got little tidbits.
Yeah, I think we need to start. I mean, the whole 8's done, so
right.
And you got a 9 o'clock interview. So I mean, essentially, we got 3 segments here in the 9:18.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this Football Friday edition on the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. It is not Wild Card Weekend, Mark. What is it?
Super Wild Card Weekend.
Oh, just hear the grittiness in his voice. It starts tomorrow afternoon with the Raiders at the Bengals. And the Raiders, one of 4 road teams that are given a real shot to win. The Eagles and the Steelers are significant underdogs by more than a touchdown, and the Steelers nearly by 2 touchdowns. So our poll question is pretty simple. Between the Raiders, the Patriots, the Niners, and the Cardinals, who are all between a 3 and a 5.5 point dog, which one do you think's going to win or has the best shot to win? Mark, what's your vote, by the way?
San Francisco, without question. I think that they go into Dallas and win. So that one's an easy one for me. It's a question of how many are going to go in and win, David, because you and I both think it's going to be at least 2. You think it could be 3.
Yeah, I voted 3. That was our poll question yesterday. You know, our stat of the day yesterday was in the last 3 wild card weekends where we've had 14 wild card games. The underdog's gone 8-6 straight up. And in just about every case, the road team is the underdog. And the underdog's 11-3 against the number. So it's a 3-year trend. Now, it doesn't mean that this weekend's going to go that way, but we threw it out there because the thought was, boy, I don't know how many road teams are going to win this weekend. Well, just so you know, the road teams have been doing really good this first weekend for the last 3 years. So that's our poll question. Which road team do you give the best shot of winning? I agreed with you, Mark. I went Niners close because I think Arizona also has a really good chance.
All right, David, Pats and Bills. I got a couple of nuggets for you here. I know you've got nuggets. I'll see if my nuggets are different nuggets than your nuggets.
So we're going to use different sauce is what you're saying? You're going to go honey mustard, I'm going to go barbecue?
What I'm hoping is that we ordered a 20-pack of nuggets, that we don't just have the same 6 nuggets, because then we'll start fighting.
No, Mark, we are definitely ordering a 20-pack. It's just a matter of whether or not we order a second one.
I really need to get you to a bar for a 50 boneless and watch you go to town. That's on a sidebar.
Mark,
But
I may stay for a weekend. If you get me to a place like that, they may just like put me in the corner and go, nah, we'll wake them at 11 a.m. when we open up tomorrow.
Bring in the cot from the back, everybody. All right. When you think about the Pats-Bills game, it's going to be freezing cold, and we assume in games like that to bet the under, right?
Yes.
Here's a little factoid for you. Since 2009, 40 games have been played in weather colder than 20 degrees. The over has hit in 58% of those games.
Huh.
When it's even colder, at sub 15 degree temperatures, 59% of the time, over's the play. Now, Vegas has paid attention to this because the average line for these games was set at 42.4. It finished with an average of 43.6, just 1.2 over. You know what the damn over-under is for this game? 43.5.
With a 4-point spread. So basically, Vegas is saying 24-20 Bills. That's basically what the two numbers combine to, 24-20 Buffalo.
Which 23-20 is your under, 24-20 is your over.
Huh. Two good defenses. New England does a better job for whatever reason. Josh Allen's numbers against New England are far better on the road than they are at home. Don't know if that's a fluke or what have you.
I think it's a little bit of a fluke, and you got to throw the fact that they played the one game in the gale force winds in there as well.
My nugget, by the way, about the Patriots and the Bills involves just Bill Belichick. Saturday will be Belichick's 44th playoff game. 8 more than any other head coach all time. Tom Landry and Don Shula were on the sidelines as head coaches for 36 playoff games. This is Belichick's 44th. I mean, think about that. 2.5 seasons worth of playoff games. Belichick is 31-12. The 31 playoff wins are 11 more than Tom Landry, who's in second. Landry went 20-16 in the playoffs at Dallas. And Shula, between the Colts and the Dolphins, was less than that. So he's coached in 8 more playoff games than anyone else, and he has 11 more wins than anyone else all time. I never thought, Mark, that anyone was going to beat Shula's record. Belichick's going to pass down Shula and be the all-time winningest NFL coach. And boy, is that not going to sit well with Finn's Nation.
Particularly with the state of Finn's Nation that it's in right now.
Well, yes. Yes, about the only thing that Dolphin can take solace in is the fact that Tyree caught that ball on the side of the helmet and they didn't put a 19-0 on the board. That is the one thing that Finn's fan can go, well, at least they didn't go undefeated. Because otherwise, they are just wiping Shula and us out of the record book. But that's my Bills Patriots nugget. The other thing is Mac Jones playing in his first playoff game. How much of a factor do you think that is, Mark?
Well, if you're going to say it's a factor for Mac Jones, it's a factor then for Burrow. How many other quarterbacks do we have playing in their first playoff game?
We have quite a few, actually. Both quarterbacks in the very first game are playing in their first playoff game. Remember, Carr got hurt late in the 2016 season when he might very well have won the MVP. He was not the starter in their playoff loss that year. So this is Carr's first playoff game, Burrow's first playoff game, Mac Jones' first playoff game, Jalen Hurts' first playoff game, and Kyler Murray's first playoff game And you could say, oh, by the way, it's also Matthew Stafford's first playoff game with the Rams. So
obviously he's not won a playoff game.
Right.
So we're going to have a lot of firsts when it comes to this postseason.
Absolutely. So
I think it's definitely a factor for the first playoff game. But it probably, put it this way, who do you think it's the biggest factor on? Because with Burrow and Carr, they're both playing in their first playoff game. I don't put a lot on that either way. More for, probably more pressure for Burrow. He's younger. Mac Jones has got Belichick. I think Kyler Murray's the guy that I want to see something out of in his first playoff game. I think there's pressure on Kyler Murray based on the way Arizona, not maybe nationally, David, but in his own backyard. We've talked about this. They backed their way into the playoffs. They've had 2 back-to-back terrible second halves. They, like Tennessee, however, they're getting healthy right now. Healthier.
I'm most interested in how Mac Jones performs for 2 reasons. One, he slumped a little bit in the last month. I mean, not only did they go 1-3 down the stretch, he was a part of the reason why. But the other thing, which I don't know if it's been talked much about, and maybe it's because I'm used to listening to Troy Aikman talk about it, is, Mac Jones grew up in Jacksonville, and he went to college in Tuscaloosa. And we have no idea if Mac Jones likes the cold. We have no idea if Mac Jones is comfortable throwing a rock-hard, cold ball. He never had to do it in his whole life. And the weather, obviously, when it got really cold, when we literally turned to winter, Mac's play has not been as good. Now, I know his last game was in South Florida against Miami, but that is something that we don't know. That Troy Aikman has talked a lot about, listen, it's a good thing I got drafted by Dallas and not Green Bay. I was not a good bad weather quarterback. I didn't grip the ball well. I needed a football that I felt really comfortable gripping. And, it's also one of the great things about Favre, Mark. Here, the kid growing up in Mississippi goes to Southern Miss and then ends up being this great bad weather quarterback. And when asked, where did this come from? He's like, I don't know. Just don't know. So I'm curious about Mac Jones in 0-degree weather. I don't think he's ever played a game in this before.
And he'd be the first rookie quarterback since Russ to win his playoff debut.
Wow.
I mean, that right there. The other side of this, though, Mac Jones and Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts can walk into this game going, this isn't the biggest game I've ever played in. I've played much bigger games than this. They've had moments. They've walked up on the biggest stage and played. A wild card game should not affect them mentally. It really shouldn't, David. I get that they're better players and they're playing in the NFL, and this is the NFL playoffs versus college. But from a stage standpoint, from nerves and things of that nature, they've all had this before.
Well, Burrow, Jones, Hurts.
When's Kyler Murray? When's Derek Carr had a big moment? I mean, that's a better question to me, David. Maybe not to other people, but to me, there's quarterbacks that are playing their first playoff game. When's Matthew Stafford had a big moment?
Miller and Moulton. I don't know when's the last time we had a big moment, but I know we're having Pat Kirwan at the top of the hour to talk about all these playoff games here on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Does coffee ever have a reverse effect on you?
I don't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee either.
I will say at this point, like when I drink soda, which isn't that often anymore, it doesn't have the effect on me that it should. Like I can have a soda and go to sleep an hour later.
So I just drank a cup of coffee and I feel tired.
Well, you're tired because it's 7:15 on Friday. You've been, I mean, you know, this shift and this job. I mean, you know what you should do when you feel tired? Stand up.
Yeah, that's what I do sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep. Stand.
Yeah. It's real easy. I mean, that's why people fall asleep in the chair watching TV. They don't feel tired, and all of a sudden, a few minutes later, they've dozed off.
I stand up and eat a lot.
You stand up and eat?
I love eating.
I will say that'll serve you well if you're ever in a broadcast booth. All right. There's a lot of quick stand up and eat in a broadcast booth. Not a lot of sitting in a booth.
It's perfect. I have a little bar in my kitchen that faces the TV. Stand up. There you go.
Well, I don't know if people mock Mac for that game against Buffalo. I mean, he wasn't the one calling the plays. They were the ones that said, hey, we don't want you throwing the ball. Okay. Johnny Mac, I'm not supposed to with the one kidney. I have lately, when I have needed it, gone to like a Coke Zero or a Pepsi Zero.
Mark said earlier, has Matthew Stafford had a big moment? I think the only like notable big moment, I guess, besides beating the Buccaneers, was in week 1 when his like third throw on the Rams was a deep ball to Robert Woods.
What was the big moment?
That deep ball to Robert Woods.
What was the big moment?
It was amazing. It was
no. What was was he playing against was it a playoff game? Was it a Super Bowl game? It was just a deep throw. He's been making deep throws for 15 years.
But it was awesome.
It's a good play. It's not a big moment.
You're right.
When's the big stage Matthew Stafford stepped on and had to win a game?
I mean, he beat the Buccaneers
in a regular season game. That's his biggest moment. Okay.
Well, I thought you were referring to the season so far.
No, I'm referring to their careers. I mentioned Joe Burrow playing for a national championship. Jalen Hurts playing for a national championship. Mac Jones playing for a national championship.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
You're right. Hey, no pressure, Stafford. No pressure.
Well, especially since, the bum they got rid of took him to the Super Bowl.
Bingo.
So you're going to be here for 2, 3, 4 years, however long it is. I mean, you have to at least get us back to the big game.
Oh, wait, and he had Goff, I'm referring to, had a really good year. The year that they went to the Super Bowl. Listen,
he totally outplayed Breeze in that NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Totally. He made great throws in the fourth quarter of that game. I mean, they shouldn't have won the game. The Saints got totally hosed,
obviously. But I think he might have had like close to 5,000 yards that year. Goff. Golf.
By the way, Mark, Kane shut out at home for the first time in 26 months.
Wow.
November of 19, the last time.
By the way, the Bucs signed John Brown. How about that?
Yeah.
No way.
Yep. Practice squad.
Wow. They should sign T.O. now.
That tells you why they never will.
So what are the odds that Julian Edelman actually comes back to the NFL?
No,
0.
Non-existent.
He shouldn't.
I'm a little surprised Larry Fitzgerald didn't. I mean,
10 seconds.
tells me he really doesn't want to play because there were opportunities.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
19 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, on this Football Friday.
Football Friday.
Of not just wild card weekend, but super wild card weekend.
Well, they're running out of things to call these things, David, aren't they?
Yes, I don't know where they go from here. I really don't. Believe it or not, of the 6 playoff games, Mark, and while I'm thrilled to have a virtual home game with the Bucs on Fox early Sunday, I mean, it'll be great. Do the game, home at a decent hour. Oh, it'll be glorious. The game that really interests me the most is Raiders-Bengals. For this reason, the Cincinnati Bengals have the longest playoff drought in the National Football League. Anybody care to guess the last time the Bengals won a playoff game?
Well, I know it's one more year than the Detroit Football Lions. The Lions' drought was 30 years. The Bengals is 31, correct?
The Lions' last playoff win was the 1991 season. May have technically been in the early January 92, but yes, we talk about the NFL, we refer to the season. And the Lions beat the Cowboys to advance to the NFC Championship game, where they were then blown out in Washington by the then Redskins. And Mark, you are 100% correct. The last time the Bengals won a playoff game, 1990, wild card round, 41-14 over the Houston Oilers. The Bengals have lost 8 straight playoff games. 30 consecutive seasons, technically now tied because the Lions just finished their 30th season in a row without making the playoffs. So literally at this moment in time, they are tied. If the Bengals lose tomorrow, then their playoff drought technically becomes 31 years. I mean, 31 years ago, George H.W. Bush was president. We had yet to go to war with Iraq. I mean, we were days away, but you know what I mean.
David, I think the most fascinating thing about it is not necessarily the time. It is, but it isn't. It's the look. I'm watching NFL Network yesterday, and they start going through that game and start showing the highlights. When you see the shoulder pads that are on players, particularly running backs in that era, it's hilarious to me. They look completely different on the field. That's how long ago it is. Not to mention everybody's playing on AstroTurf. Everybody.
The irony is that 1990 Bengals team involved in one of the more infamous plays in NFL history. The Bengals win over the Oilers, sent them to Los Angeles to play Bo Jackson and the Raiders. And Bo suffered his devastating hip injury at the end of a long run against the Bengals. The awkward tackle, and he tried to brace himself with his leg, and it jarred his hip, and he dislocated it, and that was the beginning of the end of Bo Jackson. I mean, he never played football again, and he was never the same baseball player again, and Bo Jackson in 1990 was right up there as an athletic specimen with Michael.
You know, it's amazing. If he'd have been playing today, that would have never happened because they don't tackle.
Listen, Bo Jackson was so big that Bo could just step right into the game today and still look big.
Could you imagine someone trying to arm tackle that man? I mean, the way they tackle in the defensive backfield, they don't wrap. They don't even they just try to put a shoulder. Guys would bounce. It would look like it would look like Bo looked when you played the Techno Bowl.
But is it a Derrick Henry kind of effect that he had?
Well, here's the thing. He was slightly, for his time, he played every bit as big, but his actual size, he's a little smaller than Derrick Henry now, but he's a lot faster.
I wish I could see Bo, man.
Sprinter speed fast, Bo Jackson. For a man of that size, I mean, Mark, they ask the question every now and then. You go, boy, the one athlete who got hurt that if you could,
Bo
have
Jackson.
a Republican, yeah.
Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
It's all right there.
So 31 years. 31 years. Think about, if you're 40 years old or younger in the greater Cincinnati area, you basically don't have a memory of the Bengals winning a playoff game. You don't have an NBA team. You don't have a hockey team. You got baseball and the Bengals.
And you've had, fortunately, a moment or two with the Reds, but not much in your lifetime. You've had one little sniff. But, boy, you're right, David. You actually just hit me right between the eyes with that because I've got friends from Cincinnati. I'm older than they are by quite a bit. They have no memories of good football.
No. And they've had some interesting teams. Marvin Lewis made the playoffs like 7 times, I believe, in his 15 years. But whether it was Carson Palmer or Andy Dalton and some heartbreaking losses, both of, 2 of their Steeler playoff defeats. Palmer gets his knee wrecked in 2005, and that was probably their best team. And Pittsburgh goes on to win the Super Bowl a few weeks later. And then they have the Steelers beat a few years ago with A.J. McCarron at quarterback and the stupid fumble and personal foul penalty, and the Steelers get out of there with a W. And we mentioned 1990, Mark. 1990, the year the Reds won the World Series. Haven't been back since. In fact, I don't believe they've won a game in the LCS since. They made it in 95 and got swept. And then the Bengals haven't won a playoff game since 1990. Me with parades and droughts and everything like that. For a lot of fan bases, winning a game and losing the divisional round, whatever. Let me tell you, damn near parade worthy in Cincinnati.
Buried in Bourbon gave us one of the best lines I've ever seen in our Twitch chat room. There has never been a text message sent celebrating a Bengals playoff win. And it ain't close.
Had Al Gore invented the internet yet? It was close.
By
By
the way, is that the all-time taking credit for something that you have nothing to do with? That's an all-timer. No. That's an all-timer.
Well,
that's like saying, I walked on the moon first.
Well, there was also a story going around that at some point in time he gave a speech in which, talking about love story was him and Tipper. Al was prone to exaggerate. I think that's fair to say. But so it will be,
Tell you what, if love story was he and Tipper, it was G-rated because you couldn't play any bad music with Tipper.
No, you could not. There's no question about that. Every time it got a little saucy, they just faded to black.
They certainly slept in separate beds in that one too.
Yes, they did, Desi and Lucy. Yes, they did.
Don't push them together. Whatever you do, don't push them together.
So I think the atmosphere, you have the Bills Mafia and, Arrowhead's always rocking. But think about, Mark, let's see, how old was I? I was 22. No, I was 20. I had just turned 20. And the Giants hosted their first playoff game since before I was born. And I remember, I slept in a parking lot overnight to get tickets and got the tickets and the whole deal. Think about the excitement. And I know the Bengals were in the playoffs 5 years ago, but just think about the excitement in Cincinnati right now. I mean, it's Christmas Eve in Cincinnati. And they just want the one present. You want to talk about, they would be thrilled with win and lose next week in Nashville. They really would. They would be fine.
We didn't even have grunge yet, David, the last time they won a playoff game. Nirvana's Nevermind had not been released yet. It would be another year.
So just a little perspective. It's a big day for Carr and the Raiders. It's their first playoff game since they moved to Vegas and all that. And the team's been through a lot this year. But the Bengals is a franchise. 31 years since they've won just a playoff game. Miller and Moulton. Pat Kirwan at the top of the hour. We'll talk Raiders, Bengals, and all 5 other super wild card weekend playoff games, and we'll go through them as well next here on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action
You're not the only one
shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is, you can deposit
AB's not been the same since that hit. You're not the only one that's trying to make that correlation.
Now, and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Did they win in 90 or 91?
The 90 season.
Right. So was it probably in 90 then?
So it was probably the last few days of 90 or the first few days of 91.
You got a haircut?
What are you talking about?
File 1 says nice haircut, David.
No, I haven't had a haircut.
That's weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, his wife knew that I knew. Vile, where have you been?
I mean, yeah, you're like 10 days too late, Vile.
Come on.
In fact, I think it was 2 Tuesdays ago. I mean, you're talking what? Boomer? Icky Woods?
Yeah.
Although I think Icky had already hurt his knee.
Me too, Vile. That's why I'm home. Negative test all over.
Can I ask a question? If Djokovic just hung out in his hotel room and then just got in a Uber and showed up at Melbourne there at Rod Laver Arena, what would they do on Monday?
Arrest him.
Monsieur Djokovic. You must go back to your hotel.
Yeah, Stanley Wilson.
Cats don't like getting thrown out of this room. Both right at the door looking at me like, hey, can I come back? I'm like, no.
Are they scratching it?
No.
No? Okay.
No. They don't, for whatever reason, they don't scratch doors. They don't meow at doors. Now, when I wake, because they are so on time with getting fed. I mean, they greet me in the shower every morning. They're standing there the whole shower like, are we going to go upstairs? No, I need my cup of crack there. Let's go. All right. If I knew how to do custom emotes, I would. I really do. You know, Felipe, get on the custom emotes. Let's go.
Yeah, let me do some research on that. I've never done that before.
I may even have a treat for you next week, Philly. You may move to not only producer of the show, but director of the Twitch channel. I've been doing a little research on multiple camera options.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, I've got to figure out a way to keep you engaged when you don't like the segment.
Like,
oh, so you're saying like Moulton's rigged it against me because we don't have the those things, right? Because you know the one that would be making them would be David.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome, Arch. I don't even know how to do it though, because I thought I was told there's a way to basically you can go, you know, behind the wall and have it set up so it's automatic. Like, right? Is that the case?
I was gonna say, if there's a camera, I gotta stay awake.
Okay. On the creator dashboard, there's a way to set that all up.
Felipe's been dozing off before.
Oh, yeah.
We've caught him, 10 or so seconds at a time, dozing off. I mean, it wasn't like Raj. I mean, Raj was asleep a couple minutes.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Can't make a weekend movie on the radio during commercials emote.
That's funny. I mean,
funny.
Funny's funny.
Funny's fun.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
"23 minutes before the hour, Pat Kirwan joins us 25 minutes from now here on Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Our poll question, whether it's at that Mark Miller or at the David Moulton on Twitter. All right, there are 6 road teams, obviously. 2 of them are pretty significant underdogs. The Eagles, 8.5-ish. Steelers, 12.5-ish. We took them off the board. We got 4 really viable road dogs in this super wild card round. We got Vegas, we got the Patriots, we got the Niners, we got the Cardinals. They're all somewhere between like 3 and 6 point dogs. So, to you, which one is the best shot? Which one do you most confident you think is going to win? That's our poll question. Mark and I both voted Niners. Mark confidently Niners. I'm not so confident, and I really think Arizona's chances against the Rams are just about as good.
Arizona does not play all that well against the Rams. They've won 1 of the last 6. But I think the most interesting thing about our poll results right now, David, because I'm not surprised that there's 1 and 3 as a Patriots vote. There's a lot of Patriot fans out there, and they think it's their time again because, my goodness, they had a whole year away from the postseason. But we just got done doing an entire segment on the futility of the Cincinnati Bengals. And only 5.6% of the votes are picking Las Vegas. That's a little stunning to me.
Don't you think that's Joe Burrow?
I also think it's nobody trusts the Raiders and nobody trusts the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's a bigger shot at the Cowboys than it is positivity towards the Bengals. And I think that's justified.
It's Dak Prescott's 6th year in the league, Mark. This is the 4th time he has taken the Cowboys, 3rd time, he has taken the Cowboys to the playoffs. Dak and the boys during his tenure have one postseason win. They beat Seattle at home in the 2018 playoffs. Dak's final 4 games of this year, he did not throw a pick. Now, it's also been a little inconsistent. Quite a few passes behind receivers, this, that, and the other thing. The offense, until that Eagles game, when Philly kind of sort of mailed it in, has been inconsistent. I mean, the Cowboys outside of the NFC East have been inconsistent. But, Mark, I think there's a decent amount of pressure on Dak and the boys come mid-afternoon Sunday.
Okay, you know what? That's just, it's not our poll question, but if we wanted to play the Levitard, let's have 40 poll questions today. You could say which wild card team has the most pressure on them this weekend. And it's either Dallas or Buffalo, isn't it?
It's interesting. You know, I think it's the Rams because they are so all in. They have given up so many resources. They have spent big money on a lot of guys. I think they have more chips pushed into the middle of the table than any other team that's playing this weekend.
I'll give you that. I actually think that that's a really fair assessment. That part of the whole pressure thing, though, is outside of just internal pressure, the external pressure of the area. And because the Rams don't have a fan base, I mean, what's her name? What's Matthew? Is it Kelly? Is that Matthew's wife's name?
Yes.
She does a podcast. I don't listen, but I happen to just read something, you know, because she's gotten in hot water because she's a super fan. God bless her. She wants to win as much as her husband. She truly does. And good for her. Doesn't always come off the right way. But she went on her podcast and just basically made an emotional plea saying, please don't sell your tickets to Arizona fans. Basically said, hey, we were in Detroit and have never experienced what we experienced on Sunday.
Yep.
And there's nothing about what she said that's inaccurate. She's like, hey, my husband had to go to a silent count. For those of you that don't know what that is, that means that he couldn't speak to his team at home. The visiting quarterback has to go to a silent count, not the home quarterback. That's why, to me, David, the pressure isn't as great on the Rams because they don't have any fans. If the Rams lose a playoff game and no one cares, did they actually lose? You know what I mean?
Right. The tree in the forest. If the Rams lose a playoff game, did they really lose in the playoffs? Right. But I just think that their shelf life here is the shortest. Like, I think Dallas is set up, actually. You know, they'll have to let a wide receiver go because of a cap down the road. They're going to shuffle out a couple of linemen. You know, they got rid of Jalen Smith. They're going to get rid of Van Der Esch. They're going to have to shuffle some guys out here. But Dallas is actually set up where they can be good for a while. I think the Rams a while is pretty short. Like, I think Buffalo has set up. I do. I think Buffalo's run mark is longer than the Rams.
Okay, and I'll even give you that. But as far as pressure, Josh Allen, you know, someone in our Twitch chat says, I think Mac Jones has the most pressure. I don't think he has any. He's a rookie quarterback. Russell Wilson's the last rookie to win in the playoffs. If he wins, he's anointed this great quarterback. If he loses, he just did what rookie quarterbacks do in the postseason. But if Josh Allen loses, and Josh Allen doesn't have a good game, I think the pressure immediately goes on Buffalo. And I'm with you, David, that their run's longer. But I'm just heading into next year. You just lost to the Patriots. You had your 1 year, you got the division back. You won the division a second time, but you couldn't get through them in the postseason. That is a bitter pill to swallow the entire offseason if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, player, personnel.
We mentioned the Cowboys. Remember, Jimmy G could be playing his last game for the Niners any day now. I will say this. First off, they're 7-2 in their last 9. Remember, they were 3-5, finished the year 10-7. So they finished the year 7-2. Number one. Number two, Garoppolo during that stretch is completing 71% of his passes and throwing for 265 yards a game. So all the talk about the Niners and the defense and the running game and what have you, Jimmy G in the passing game has been pretty darn effective. So tall order for the Cowboys. They have the toughest home playoff game based on point spread. They are only a 3-point favorite against the Niners. Do want to just throw this one out there. Historically, we all know Gronk is amazing. Only Jerry Rice has caught more touchdowns in the playoffs than Rob Gronkowski. Rice caught 22. Gronk has 14. And he's third on the all-time list for tight ends in terms of catches behind Gonzalez and Gates.
He better get to 17 or 18 if they plan on playing the last game of the season this year. That's all I can tell you. With how things are going, with where their receiving core is health-wise, he better keep on keeping on if they're going to keep playing into February.
And while he's still very effective, remember, Gronk did come out of retirement to do this little run with Brady. I mean, I don't think it's, we take certain things for granted as fans. I do think that there are certain players who could just walk away, and if you thought about it, you go, boy, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, do I think if Brady comes back, Gronk will stick around for one more year? Yeah. But would it really shock you if whenever this season ends that Gronkowski goes, this has been fun. These 2 years, never thought I was going to have this second act. This has been a ball. But I've saved all my money, by the way, all my playing career. I'm still living off my signing bonus from my rookie deal. So I got a lot of money in the bank. I got a model girlfriend. You know what? I think I'm done. Would that surprise anybody?
Yes. Yes. Because he and Tom are getting close to setting records of the touchdown records, or they have a shot at some things. I think they ride off into the sunset together. That's all. I think he's having too much fun. I think the fact of the matter is these two left New England and they are having so much damn fun playing football. Why would they want to quit? They get to have a social media presence. They're making a boatload of money outside of the game that they weren't making prior. Doesn't mean they won't still continue to make it. But now Gronk and Brady can do ads. Brady can do them everywhere for the rest of his life. Gronk can do ads in the New England area and for Florida for the rest of the days. You and I joked around off air about Stetson Bennett living the best life possible. And as you and I both said, I think you said the tweet was, man, is that guy going to sell a lot of insurance?
Think about the life Stetson Bennett is going to have if he is blessed with good health. I mean, he led Georgia for the first. We talked about the Bengals 31 years since they won a playoff game. Georgia had won a national title in 41 years, and you're the walk-on Kurt Warner story quarterback who does it.
Decent-looking guy.
Right. I mean, Stetson Bennett Insurance Agency. Done.
Or Stetson Bennett Ford, which my son did top the insurance agency. You know how many car dealerships he's going to have? And David, that really has a ring to it. Stetson Bennett Ford, proud sponsor of the Georgia Football Radio Network. And now back to the game with the voice of the Bulldogs, whomever, and the color commentator, Stetson Bennett.
Right. I mean, if
because
you're
Eric Zaire is holding that job until Stetson wants it.
I know. I mean, first Buck Bellew had it, and then Zaire took it from him, which is, I think, because they changed flagship stations. And I mean, Eric Zaire was a really nice,
really good college quarterback.
Yes, he was. But I mean, come on, an SEC title's one thing. I mean, he won you a natty. I mean, Zaire, whenever he wants that gig, it's over.
Right. Because DJ Shockley's the guy doing the sidelines. They're not kicking him to the curb. No offense. The sideline guy stays. Zaire, you're gone, buddy.
So, I mean, nobody's going to have a better life if they have good health over the next 40 years than Stetson Bennett. That's true. But, yeah, Gronk's got a pretty good one going right now, though. I mean, he, like you said, he's marketable nationally, but he can do regional stuff in both New England and Florida
for the rest of his life.
Man, a lot of households there, a lot of marketing possibilities.
No doubt there. I do like our supplemental, even though it's not up as a poll question. Which team, which quarterback has the most pressure on them? You can text the show. Text us who you think has the most pressure. Text FSN Radio to 21,000. If you've already done that, then you know the drill. But if you've never texted before, text FSN Radio. That's the keyword to 21,000. It's all one word, FSN Radio. And then you can text the show. We always ask you to join us on Twitch. David and I have a bet as to the number of followers we will have by the 4th of July. The only way for me to win is for you to log on to Twitch TV/Miller and Moulton and follow us. Follow us through the playoffs.
We've got a couple of matchups in which it's the third time they are playing this year. Patriots, Bills, Cardinals, Rams. What's interesting is that the Patriots and Bills have not met in the playoffs since the early AFL days. You got to go back to, I think, 63, since the only other time I believe that these two teams have met in the playoffs. And the Cardinals and Rams have only played one another once in the playoffs. And of course, it's ironic because both teams were in St. Louis at various times in their history. And the only time that they met in the playoffs, it was the St. Louis Cardinals losing to the LA Rams in the 75 playoffs. So not a lot of history. I mean, San Francisco, Dallas is awesome because of the playoff history that they've had. And I mean, that's awesome. But really amongst the other teams, I mean, Philly and Tampa, the NFC Championship game, obviously the Bucs went into Philly and won on their way to their first Super Bowl. You know,
what did you say? KC and Pittsburgh win?
No, I haven't. I mean, Pittsburgh and KC met in the playoffs a handful of years ago at Arrowhead when Pittsburgh won. I don't know how many other times they've met in the playoffs.
Yeah, because, I mean, KC was good early 70s before Pittsburgh really started their run.
Exactly. So, but Arizona and the Rams have only played once. It was 75. The Patriots and Bills have only played once in the playoffs, and it was 63 back in the old days. So the Niners and Cowboys, obviously, with a ton of playoff history, and Bucs fans certainly remember the Eagles-Bucs NFC title game of nearly 20 years ago when Tampa went into Philly, won, and ended up hoisting the Lombardi Trophy a couple weeks later. And I believe, actually, the Eagles and Bucs, the Bucs' first ever playoff game was, I think, at the Big Sombrero at home against the Eagles in 79. I believe they beat the Eagles.
Before they lost to the Rams?
Yeah. Because the Rams went into Dallas and beat Staubach in his last game. And I think that the Bucs beat Vermeil, Jaworski, and the Eagles, who then went to the Super Bowl the next year.
We're going to send this show into high gear for the Grade 8. Pat Kirwan coming up at the top of the hour. Derek Schultz to talk Colts at the bottom of the hour. We will go to Dallas and talk with Michael Gelkin in the 9 o'clock hour as well.
Lot to talk about with Pat. We'll get his views on all 6 games. Also, his thoughts on the now 8 teams that are looking for a head coach and 3 still looking for a general manager, with David Culley being let go yesterday. And did Cully get a raw deal? It was pointed out to us, Mark, in a text that Cully does get $17 million because that 5-year, $17 million deal was fully guaranteed. So, yeah, he was fired a year in, but he's going to get all his money.
He's getting double dipped then because he'll be hired quickly. Yeah, he'll be a coordinator. He won't be making the same kind of money, but those next 4 years, he's going to be getting double dipped. That's how you get paid in the league, David, as a coach.
So, yes, we all think David Cully was wronged, but he's going to be just fine.
For all of us who have been wronged, we've been compensated a lot worse, David.
Pat Kirwan next.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled, marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I forgot who it was, but someone in the Twitch chat like a week ago was like, Philly, is John Morant the best point guard in the league? And I said, not yet. That was a week ago. A week later, I think I changed my mind. He's really, really freaking good.
Who?
I was saying that a week ago, someone in the Twitch chat said, Philly, is John Morant the best point guard in the NBA? And I said, not yet. I think it's still Steph Curry. That was a week ago. A week later, I think I have changed my mind.
You're out of your mind.
I think. I said I think. The way that he is playing, like,
no, he's playing unbelievably.
Willing the Grizzlies to wins. Willing them to wins.
He's not better than Steph Curry.
He's not. But, man, he is playing some good.
I know you guys are in your own thing. Johnny Mac, no. All of my Woodford Derbies are untouched. I will never drink them. Just save those. This is the son of a gun. This was a Jim Beam from like the 95th Derby that my Aunt Renee gave me, but her stupid stepson decided to open it one day and drink all of it.
What is that? That's this for water?
Bourbon.
Oh, bourbon.
It was a bottle of bourbon.
I just saw your face right now. John Morant is a short Giannis. That's like weird to say, but
by the way, Mark, the B103 morning show has not been in studio the last 2 days.
Yeah, there must be a vid going on there because all of a sudden they didn't show up yesterday, did they?
No.
Did
So if you think about it, I think they did a show on December 23rd, and they had the rest of the year off. They had Friday, Christmas Eve, and they had the whole week in between Christmas and New Year's off. They had Monday, January 3rd, because they were celebrating New Year's Day off.
Right.
And they did 4 shows last week, 3 shows this week.
Well, are they doing shows from home? Are they at home for the reason I'm,
I don't it doesn't sound like it. Like when I walk by, I can't hear them. Maybe they are.
I don't know. Ooh.
Yeah, Vile One, you may be sick of him, but trust me, he is not overrated. He really isn't. When you watch him play quarterback in person, it's like when Bobby Jones talked about Nicholas and says he plays a game of which I'm not familiar.
Pat?
Yes.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, we can hear everything, Philly.
All right.
I got you.
Just make sure it's not going over the air.
It's not.
Hi, Pat.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, Mark, is that your guy Johnny that's leaving?
What's that?
Your buddy Johnny that works over here at West Bay. Is he moving back to Ohio?
It was something he wanted to tell me face to face, but I heard something was going on. I kind of figured that was it.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Minute and a half past the hour. Final hour of our show in our week in Tampa, St. Pete, halfway home in the 239. It's Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Pat Kirwan, kind enough to join us once again. He of Moving the Chains, weekday afternoons on NFL Radio and CBS's NFL Today show. Pat joins us courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, a dozen points in between Pinchers because you can't fake fresh. Pat, how surprised were you about Cully yesterday afternoon right before your show?
Not surprised at all. I thought it was just a holdover guy. I don't think Nick could get who he wanted. And Cully, who's never even been a coordinator, he plucks him and he paid him pretty well. It sounds like he's still going to make some money, which is nice. Nice guy. But I think that Cesario wanted someone, couldn't get him, and had to wait a year and had to put a coach on the field. And what led me to hear and think that as soon as he was hired, apparently he was allowed to bring one assistant with him. Now, you name a head coach, you can't hire a staff. And as soon as I heard that, I go, okay, this is a holdover. This is 1 year deal. And you know what? I give Cully a lot of credit. I said this yesterday. He was kind of thought of as a journeyman assistant, and he had a chance to run a team that was totally dysfunctional. They played hard. They rolled people off that roster like crazy. It's funny watching Whitney Merciless come back and be active for Green Bay this week. I'm thinking, this is another guy they said goodbye to. So he really got a chance to be a head coach. That's all I'll say. And I know it enhanced the people's opinion of him. He'll get work if he wants it, but he can stay home and collect $17 million. He might want to do that for a while.
The old double dip, Pat. I remember a coach tell me, you don't really get paid in this business till you get fired, and you can get paid twice. Now he'll have that opportunity. The part of this, though, that's fascinating to me is with Flores, and they're talking about him coming there. Is this all about trying to keep Deshaun in Houston?
I don't know if that's possible. And so when I say they were holding it for somebody else, there's no chance Nick was holding it for the Dolphin coach, because the Dolphin coach, he figured he ain't getting fired. He's doing enough, making progress. So, I would think it's someone from New England. But now that Brian Flores is in the mix, maybe he's changing his plan. But I have a feeling he had someone in mind. He just really can't bring the new coach in today. Wait 2 weeks. I'll ask David this question. Have you seen Josh McDaniel's name on any of the list of interviews?
No.
Yeah, me either. That tells me something.
Well, it could also say that he may have, with that Indianapolis two-step that he did a few years ago, that may have just been enough for a few owners to say, I think I'm kind of done dealing with him.
Maybe, but not Houston, because Nick's down there.
Right.
I think they went to college together. The other part of it is I was told 3 weeks ago, I got a call from a guy I like a lot and said, hey, I'm looking for the right kind of guys for a staff, the two guys that think they're going to get jobs. Now, I can't mention those coaches' names, but we just talked about one of them.
Well, and the word is that if anybody hires Dan Quinn, apparently Quinn's got quite the staff already lined up. So if he can get a gig, apparently Dan is going to have one big name staff guy after another. And I would like to think with 8 openings that Dan Quinn, who took a team to a Super Bowl, will get one of those jobs. We're talking with Pat Kirwan of NFL Radio, moving the chains. All right, Pat, let's get to the games. I'm most intrigued by the Raiders-Bengals, which is the first one up, if for no other reason than when a fan base goes 31 years without being able to celebrate a playoff win, what one playoff win would mean. We kind of saw what it meant to the Browns fan last year. I mean, and then, of course, we know what the Raiders have been through and the move to Vegas and this year and all that. Your thoughts on this game?
Well, both teams have been starved for success. That's for sure. Cincinnati, one of the more famous ones. They're certainly not in the class of Detroit starvation, but they already played. We all know that, 32-13, and the time of possession was the thing that jumps right out at you. I mean, it's ridiculous. Cincinnati controlled the whole game, over 37 minutes to 22. So they basically played 5 quarters to the Raiders playing 3. Now, the Raiders, to me, it's hard to trust them because they can get on a roll. The quarterback can look good. If the quarterback's being pressured, he's not a real good-looking guy in the pocket. He likes to fold up, and sometimes he fumbles in there. They really never blocked Hubbard and Henderson, last time. And those two guys are healthy. I talked to Mike Mayock yesterday for a while. He's doing all right. He's fine. I'm a big fan of Richie Bisaccia. I was telling, and Mike didn't know how long Richie and I have known each other, almost 40 years, which is kind of scary. And I'm cheering for Richie. I would love Richie to win. And then how could they fire him? How could they let him go? So I'm cheering for Richie, but I would be taking the Bengals in this game. This quarterback in Cincinnati, you guys can tell me, but he just has the makings of a superstar. He's got Brady-like qualities about him, and he's got incredibly good weapons. So I don't think he gives a damn about the past in Cincinnati history. He knows the history. He's from there, but I don't think he cares at all about it. It doesn't even relate to him and how he thinks.
I'm with you 100% on that, Pat. And that's why I said, in that game, Carr has more pressure than Burrow. Burrow's played on a big stage. I know it's on Saturdays, but I don't think the moment's going to grab him the way it may grab other guys. And with that being said, Pat, which quarterback this weekend, which QB in your estimation has the most pressure on him?
Well, the same one that has the most pressure on him the whole year in the whole league. His name is Matthew Stafford. He was brought there for one thing, to deliver a Super Bowl. And they had a quarterback that brought them to a Super Bowl, but that wasn't good enough. So they had to go out and get a guy that had incredible arm talent. But the expectations there with that stadium, with that owner, with the money they spent, with the veterans they brought in, even as the year went on, it's been Stafford for me the whole year. And, guys that have been there like Mahomes, he's going to go to a bunch of them. I think Ben has been playing on house money for 3 weeks. There's no pressure on Mac Jones, he's already been a phenomenal rookie. You could say there's some on Josh, but I doubt it. To me, it points right at one guy, and it's not Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, I got to give him a lot of credit. He was on a gangplank, and they're going to walk the dead man right off the ship. They go out and they trade picks, get this young quarterback. Garoppolo was tradable, all that nonsense. What did he do? He came back, and he's the best quarterback in a 49er uniform. So to me, it's Stafford. I don't know how you guys feel. That's my answer.
Absolutely. We went through it last segment. I believe actually there's more pressure on the Rams than any other team that is playing this first weekend, even more than the Cowboys. And Pat, just to get back to one thing that you said, I have never thought this, and I have certainly never said it in the 35 years that I've had a microphone in front of me. I think Joe Burrow is Joe Montana. He throws a similar ball, although I think he's got a little stronger arm, in that Joe always threw the softest, most catchable ball. And you always thought, how was he able to get it in there? Because he doesn't look like he's throwing it hard. And Burrow does the exact same thing, in which it feels as if those guys are like catching eggs. And yet the ball is in the air for 35 yards and he can make all the throws. I have never thought it about any other quarterback in the 30 years that he's been retired. I really think he's Joe Montana.
Well, that's the ultimate compliment for if you love accuracy, composure, football intelligence. Pretty important comment. Yep, I don't disagree with you. And you and I can disagree at times, but not on that one.
The Bucs this weekend, they're facing Philadelphia. The weather's supposed to be a little ugly. They beat Philadelphia once, albeit a very different team. The Bucs are banged up. Do you give the Eagles any shot at all this weekend?
You know, I had a great talk yesterday with Seth Joyner about that subject, and he was quick to. First of all, I got the impression that Seth doesn't particularly care for the coaches in Philadelphia. He kind of like that, and analytics can set him off, but he really wanted to divide the season into two parts. And it was the first part where he called it reverse engineering, that they were putting Jalen Hurts out there and trying to make him a passer. After there was a little uprising with the defense, pushing back against their coach that they're not aggressive enough, and then the offense realized we can run our way into the playoffs, which the three of us have talked about all year. They became a better football team. Here's the reason I don't think they're going to win by any means, and I don't think the weather will mean anything. I've been on that field a lot, and you guys have been on that field. That field drains. I don't care if it's torrential downpours. It's still pretty good surface to play on. Keep the ball dry, and Brady will destroy you. And Brady's a short passer anyway, and he'll just throw the ball in there. Here's why I could never take Philly. Their record against teams that are presently in the playoffs is 0-6. They haven't beaten one team that's in this playoff tournament. They're the only team that's 0-6. A lot of teams with 2 wins, 3 wins. That's typical. Kansas City has 6 wins. Tells you how battle-tested they are. Arizona, by the way, 5 wins. But there's Philadelphia, 0-6. So they've had multiple chances, some early in the season, granted, and then some late. And when they have to play teams of the caliber of the playoff teams, they don't have the ability to do it.
He's Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio, CBS NFL Today show. We'll go through the rest of the Super Wildcard Weekend with Pat when we come back on Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf. where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
To DC in the Twitch chat room, are you really being serious when you say Joe Burrow does not have the clutch gene? Are you serious? Have you watched him in the last 3 years? He even had the clutch gene his first year at LSU when he beat Georgia.
This is blasphemous.
DC, if you really mean that, you don't know a damn thing about football.
I live for this stuff, Pat.
It's good. Eddie Ogeron had the funniest comment about Joe Burrow when they brought him in when he was in the transfer. They brought him in. They put him in a room. The whole staff was in there. He's at the board. He's describing everything. And after about an hour and a half, Eddie says, "Why don't we take a break?" So everybody goes to get it. He goes, "No, you guys stay here. Joe, why don't you go get a coffee or something?" So Joe leaves the room to go to the men's room and get a coffee. And Eddie stands up and says, "The guy who just is the smartest guy in this room. We're nuts if we don't just give him the football team."
And the other thing that he did was when he transferred, he won all the workouts, all the sprint competitions. And he was Mr. Workout in taking over that team.
No, he is. Cincinnati finally got one.
Yep.
That they really don't get him hurt. I mean, that's the problem there. Was he at 54 sacks, David?
Yeah,
51, I thought was a number.
It was 51, and he didn't play the finale. Remember?
Yeah, 51 and skipped the game for the sake of his health. But Phil Simms is right. I talked about this with you guys last week. Phil looked at all those sacks and said 50% of them are his fault. He is courageous. He will hang in there waiting to throw that ball deep. And he's not afraid of him, and he doesn't run away from him. He just sits in there. So, yeah, I love the guy, but then there's the guy he's playing against, Carl, who he teases the death out of you, boy. When he looks good, he looks fantastic. But what he said the other day, just get me the ball back, I'll win the game. Well, the reason we don't have the ball is because of you.
There's a question in our Twitch chat room to you, Pat. Is Brandon Hunt going to succeed Kevin Colbert? And do you think Omar Khan stays or leaves?
There's some interest in Omar, so it depends on what your team's looking for. If you're a team that's looking for a general manager that's from the business side, that understands the cap, contracts, etc., and some teams like those kind of guys, Omar's your man. I think, though, Omar, knowing Pittsburgh, Omar will stay and he'll become the guy in charge.
And one other question from our big Jags fan, Adam. What are you hearing with the Jags?
All that stuff that was rumbling around a week ago about Balky, you got to get rid of Balky. I don't think that's going to happen. That's the first part of it. I think it's an interesting place for Billy O'Brien. Not sure what's going to happen there, but he sure knows the division, and he's just had a nice reinvent episode there at Alabama. He also, just talking to Billy, he really likes the insight he got to the college kids and who's around and draftables and everything else. That happened to Pete when he went to USC. He really did understand the whole thing. So when you're at Alabama for 1 year, you get to see every good recruit in the country. They all come through Alabama. So I think Billy would be good there. I don't know that he'll get it. I don't even know how interested they are, but I got asked that question yesterday, so that was my answer.
All right.
30 seconds. Trent Williams, Hall of Famer?
Yeah. Maybe not the first guy. In tackles, you got to hang around for a year or two. And then, because half the guys in the room won't really remember all the things he did. And the presenter could accelerate it, but if you don't have a great presenter with linemen, it takes a little bit of time.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
Rejoined by Pat Kirwan of CBS's NFL Today show. His day job, weekdays, 3 to 7, moving the chains on NFL radio. Pat joining us courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. All right. We have 2 third matchups. We have Patriots at Bills. We have Cardinals at Rams. The road teams went 4-0 this year in those home and homes. So New England at Buffalo. Let's start there. Saturday night. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's our game. So I'm spending a lot more time on our games for CBS. I just think that the X factor is Josh Allen. That's not news to anybody. He is 3-1 against this team, and that means he's 3-1 against Belichick. And the excuse makers will say, well, they weren't the same team last year. All right, then digest this one. 131 passes against Belichick's defense, 1 interception, 8 touchdowns. So Josh is there, and I think Josh, the runner, is another big problem for everybody, and it'll be a problem in a game like this. I think this year he had over 50 first downs, moving the chains. So he's going to give you 3 first downs a game with his feet. And most coaches I know believe if your quarterback will move the chains 3 times with his feet, escape a bad rush or coverage or whatever, you're going to win. So I like this game for Buffalo. I'm throwing out the home field thing, which is actually true. But I just think that with 0 degrees, which is no problem for the big fat lineman, and this quarterback played out where it was cold all the time, I think he'll have a day, and I think it's going to be tough for New England. I love where New England is going and how fast they regrouped and what they found in Mac, but I don't see Mac being able to stay up with this. Both teams are terrific in defense. Buffalo's number 1. I think New England's number 4, so it doesn't matter. They're both really good, and they both know how to take the ball away. So they may neutralize each other on defense. Ultimately, I just think Josh will make 3 or 4 more plays that Mac can't make.
Teams have been able to run the ball down the Dallas Cowboys' throat. The 49ers run the ball very differently than teams because they can do it with running backs and receivers. I love the Niners in this game. How do you look at this game, Pat?
Yep. So I asked everyone that came on the show this week, if I forced you to take one road team, I think we talked about it Tuesday, who would you take? And San Francisco was unanimous, just about. I think one person took Arizona, but everyone else took San Francisco. And there's a lot of momentum for the 49ers around the country. San Francisco's defense is terrific. They're giving up in the last month. Now, they were giving up 17 for the year, but they notched it down to 16 over the last month. The Deebo Samuel factor, I know Dan Quinn very well. Dan is thinking about Deebo Samuel and Juszczyk all the time. Where are they? What are they doing? Juszczyk can be the fullback. He can be the wing. He can be the tight end. He can be out in the slot. He actually gets dotted and runs the ball occasionally. And then where's Deebo? When I worked with Pete, and Pete Carroll trained Danny Quinn, we always had these kind of where is things. Guys like Brian Westbrook, where is Brian? But I remember that one like it was yesterday. But where is Deebo and all the things he does? I think those things are problematic for the Dallas defense. And then a defense that has a hard time with the run. We know the coach in San Francisco will want to run the ball like crazy. And the other side of the coin, we have this conversation maybe every other week. It's kind of the lackluster Dallas offense, and then they have a big game. Then they kind of settle into not looking great. Prescott, pretty efficient. No interceptions on 142 throws. C.D. Lamb, I said this the other day to you guys. I was shocked when I saw that he has not had a touchdown catch in 7 games. And he's caught the ball in those games, but he hasn't gotten to the end zone. So I'm probably inclined to take the 49ers in this one. And the last thing I'll say is Bart Scott yesterday was talking about Parsons. And he said, Parsons is talking big, but trust me, whether it's Trent Williams that's trying to pound on him occasionally, he goes, watch what Kittle tries to do to him. Kittle can handle him too. So I don't know that all that's true, but he was really excited about the 49ers matchups.
Pat, why is it that the Cowboys are not being taken more seriously? We've talked about it throughout the year. Their offense can be explosive. Now, the Gallup injury hurts, but they still have 2 wide receivers that are really difficult to handle. They've got 2 running backs. They've got a good offensive line. They have a good quarterback. And they have a difference maker at all 3 levels of their defense. And yet, they're not taken seriously as a threat. I mean, they won 12 games. We don't usually dismiss teams this easily who win 12 in the regular season. Is it because they haven't had playoff success in 20 years?
The Dallas Rabbit fan, he doesn't care about that they haven't done anything in his almost half of his lifetime. They just believe in Dallas. So they'll talk big all the time, which initiates the sarcasm and the anger and the talk down by the rest of the country who despise the Cowboys. They just don't like them. And when they hear if a Cowboy caller calls my show and rambles on about how good we are, I'll get 5 calls right after that, just kind of shoot the guy down. I think some of it is wrong, and I think it's inaccurate. You're right. They have players that are across the board. All they have to do is win this game, and the chatter will go away. But they have a bad draw in the playoffs. They didn't get Philadelphia in the playoffs. So they have a situation here and there's 2 other things that jump out at me. Their home field, the palace that Jerry built and all that nonsense, but they're 5-3 at home. So home field hasn't been rocking good for them and really hasn't been great for them over a long period of time. And then they have a losing record against playoff teams. And I'm with you. Cite 12 wins. They're 3-4 against playoff teams. So what have they done to distinguish themselves in the elite class? And I think that's really the question. How come we don't treat them the way we treat Kansas City? And Kansas City goes to Super Bowl. Why don't we treat them the way we even treat Buffalo? Because they don't have the things Buffalo has in Josh Allen. So some guy called yesterday and thought that Prescott's mechanics were off. So Jimmy, on almost every break, Jimmy Miller went through, and he said, that's not true. That's just the guy that thinks he doesn't like Prescott. He's throwing off his back foot and all this other stuff. So I don't know. I think it's kind of like people like to knock them down, and they've been knocking them down so long that they think they can keep doing it.
Well, and I know it doesn't matter the sport, it doesn't matter the team. When you think you're the best and you have this attitude that we're the best and I have the best building, everybody that comes in there wants to take a shot at you. That's just kind of the way the world works. But Pat, I do want to get to the Steelers and Chiefs game because we pointed out on our show today that Jacksonville beat Buffalo as a 14.5-point underdog. Jacksonville beat the Colts as a 14.5-point underdog. The Steelers are a mere 12.5-point underdog against Kansas City. Pat, can they do it?
No. You got me so excited I had to get that out there. No, I think it'd be wise not to pick them to win this game. I think Kansas City. Now they were up to 13.5 2 days ago, so there are things moving around. People, Kansas City's. I mean, they are battle tested, as I said earlier. They're 6-3 against playoff teams. Pittsburgh's 2-5. You always got to look at who you're playing. Pittsburgh's not a great road team, 3-5, and so. And they, if the running back plays, and that's really cold out there, and he's wearing a brace on that elbow to prevent hyperextension, which Dr. Chow said he probably will, how do you carry the ball? Well, I don't think you carry the ball up against that brace. So you're carrying the ball in the other hand. So on the way to the ground, are you putting that bad hand out to brace yourself? I think the elbow could be a problem in this game, and it's certainly going to restrict his radius to catch. So you'll get as much as that kid has to offer, but I don't think you're going to get it all because I don't think it's all there. Mahomes, I mean, the scouting report's going to tell you to run against Pittsburgh. We all know Andy doesn't like to run, but guess what? the last time they played between Williams, Gore, and Hilaire, they ran the ball 32 times. And they scored 36 points against Pittsburgh without Kelsey on the field. I don't think I have to convince you guys to take Kansas City and give the points.
And Pat, quickly, a rematch, Cardinals and Rams, the Monday night game. I believe the Cardinals went 8-1 on the road this year. And,
yes, they did.
And we know all the pressure that is on Stafford and the Rams, and they've got injury issues at a bunch of positions now. So has Arizona. But there are two coaches also, Pat, that I think could be in trouble if they lose, McCarthy and Kingsbury. Your thoughts on the Cards and Rams quickly?
Yeah, this is a hard game. I think the 49ers thing is tough too. But I've gone back and forth on this game. Yeah, they split. But Kyler's 1-5 against the Rams. 6 games, he throws 7 touchdowns. Here's the jump out number: 18 sacks. He's played against Aaron Donald and these guys, and he's been sacked 18 times in 6 games. If they stack him 3 times, and there's a way to rush the guy, and they know how to do it. Don't go crazy. Get the inside guy, which is Donald, flush him out, and the outside guys never give up contain, squeeze the pocket, and that's why they get the sacks. I think they'll get after Murray. I'm not a big believer in Stafford. We talked about the most pressure, but I think somehow they win this one. Kind of ugly. 30-24, something like that.
He's Pat Kirwan. You can hear him weekdays 3 to 7 on NFL Radio, Sirius XM channel 88. He's also part of CBS's NFL Today show. Pat joining us once again, courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, safe travels. Have a great playoff weekend, and we look forward to Tuesday.
We'll talk to you Tuesday. Have a great weekend, fellas. Thank you.
Pat Kirwan, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. Derek Schultz covers the Colts. We'll ask him, how in the world did this collapse happen? Next on Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
The NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M, only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, thanks to all of you that are in here right now. Numbers are pretty big. I would say, I'm sure a lot of that was Pat Kirwan. If you have not followed, I need you to follow now. I have to win this bet with Moulton. There's really nothing else in life that matters. Honestly, nothing.
Mark,
David's hatred for the growth of the show is something that I can no longer deal with.
Okay.
No. I didn't say hatred for the show. I said hatred for the growth of the show. David, understand there's a difference.
I understand there's a gray, Mark. I knew exactly what you're saying. Okay. It is not hatred for the growth of the show. It is just skepticism. That's all.
I take it the wrong way.
Okay.
I watched a whole bit of Costanza of whatever his real name is, Larry David, because the character is based on Costanza's character is based on Larry David, and Larry David was trying to fill in and do George, and Jason Alexander is teaching Larry David how to do Costanza, which essentially is Larry David. Oh my! They were all laughing so hard. And the ability that Jason Alexander has to go from talking like this to George is upset and just go full Costanza. I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
That's fantastic. You know what? since we're up very early in the morning in our house, my wife goes through finding certain shows between like 4 and 5:30 in the morning, and she has discovered whatever channel has been running Cheers reruns.
It's TV Land, I think. It's the one that gives you all the old shows.
Let me tell you. All right, my wife's not laughing about much in life right now. My wife's laughing every morning.
Cheers with Coach, because
and that's what we have right now.
They syndicated far more of the Christy Alley, Woody Harrelson stuff. You see far more of that out. The stuff with Coach was the best. And talk about a perfect replacement the early Woody, when they transitioned, was glorious.
The other thing is the show was better with Diane.
Oh yeah.
They were brilliant in their dysfunction with each other. Brilliant.
Yes. Okay, yeah, MeTV, TV Land, aren't they kind of the same thing? No. Yeah, MeTV is a Comcast thing. It really was seamless. Because Woody was also the early Woody was Coach Light. They had the character be so dumb and simple. It was perfect. In fact, because we were watching TV then, that was appointment TV. Those couple of shows with Coach dying and Woody coming in, it's not McLean Stevenson dying, but it was pretty damn good television.
Yeah. I will say the Coach character produces so many laugh out loud moments.
Right. Whereas the Woody moments were more contrived. I will say with Christy Alley, I still think of the how do you want your cucumber bruised, whatever the drink was, the flaming zombie or whatever the hell it was. And everybody's ordering the flaming zombie so Woody could keep his job.
30 seconds. Derek didn't even say hi. He just said that he wishes he could be in Florida weather.
Yeah, well.
Yep. It's 24 degrees in where he's at. So.
Yes, and it's frigid here today. Absolutely frigid.
I almost had to put socks on.
Ooh, near sock advisory.
I'm still in socks or shorts and a golf shirt. And
I didn't even turn the fan on in here today. It's so warm.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. The bonus hour begins at the top of the hour. Michael Gelkin, who covers the Cowboys for the Dallas Morning News, will be kind enough to join us, as is Derek Schultz, who's kind enough to join us from the Indianapolis Star and the ISC Sports Network. You can follow Derek on Twitter at Schultz975. Schultz975. Derek, it's David and Mark. A belated Happy New Year. How are you?
Yeah, it's great to hear from you guys. Thanks so much for inviting me back on the show.
Well, it's our pleasure. Mark, feel free to just let Derek know where you've been for the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, Derek, I at 1-4 jumped on top and was going to die on the Colts Hill. And I was shot by a sniper named Trevor Lawrence in the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. So while I don't feel all of the pain that Colts Nation feels, I had been backing this team since September, saying they can still do this. They can still do this. What the hell happened?
It's so funny that you say that, because when they collapsed in Baltimore on Monday Night Football to go 1-4, I was like you. I was saying to myself, well, this team's better than this. Like, I think they can really go on a run here. So we started this stupid thing on Twitter called the Colts Surge Train. And the goal was to get to 10 wins. And so we were checking them off as the Colts went. And I would attach these Harry Potter GIFs to each one where he's on the train and waving every time they won. And after the Arizona game on Christmas, you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, like, I think we undershot this thing by saying 10 wins. It looks like they're going to win out. And then they come out flat against the Raiders and you're saying, okay, they were allowed to be flat. They played really good football for 3 months. It's just one of those things that happens. But I'm like you. The Jacksonville game, look, they hadn't won there since 2014. It had been a house of horrors for them against some extremely crappy Jags teams, just like this year's team obviously was. But a 15.5-point road favorite, a Jags team with literally no incentive, an interim head coach, definitely the worst team in the league on both sides of the ball. And to not only lose, but to get dominated the way that they did. We're not talking about a huge history here, guys. They've only been in Indianapolis since 1984. It's the most embarrassing regular season loss in Indianapolis history.
Well, and Derek, I guess the big question that they have to answer is why? How? I mean, Derek, to me, this is the type of loss that screams we have a leadership problem. If just hours earlier you didn't think you had a leadership problem. Am I off base?
No, I think that's absolutely, look, all questions are valid right now. When you have a team that went from being what looked like a contender in the wide open AFC, and then in 8 days is out of the playoffs entirely, having lost to an awful Jacksonville team, I think all of those questions are valid. I think really what it comes down to many different things. This isn't just about one thing. But the Colts' whole philosophy was to be this run-first team and build on a defense that is reliant on taking the ball away because they don't have a pass rush. So when you, A, don't force turnovers, and B, another team comes in and takes away the run and you have to rely on your quarterback, you're screwed. And that's essentially what happened. Certainly in the Jacksonville, everything went wrong in the Jacksonville game. But that's basically what happened to them in a lot of their losses this year. Those were games that they had to rely on Carson Wentz, or those were games that they had to rely on winning the turnover margin, and they were unable to do that. So I just think really the big question to me isn't necessarily a leadership thing, because I do think Frank Reich is a good head coach. I do. Chris Ballard has improved the roster, certainly from the previous regime. But I think there's a philosophy problem here where they need to kind of get back to finding the quarterback for them, because Carson Wentz was the fourth starter in 4 years, and now the Colts are looking at it as potentially replacing him and having a fifth starter in 5 years. And that situation is just not tenable at the most important position in the sport.
Well, and Derek, obviously, Chris Ballard yesterday with his answer, I mean, that's as much of a tell as you're going to get from somebody. I'm not going to talk about this player right now and then have to back it up with, well, I'm not talking about any player. Well, we don't care about the other 52, quite frankly. We care about the quarterback. It's the most important position. And it certainly seems, Derek, that answer was a precursor to saying Carson Wentz is not going to be back in Indianapolis next year.
Yeah, we had the same read here in Indianapolis that you did. And it's not just even Ballard's comments. Frank Reich, who was the guy that stuck his neck out for Carson Wentz, and the guy that sold Ballard on taking a chance on Carson Wentz, wasn't even committed to him, and wasn't even really mentioning. Nobody was mentioning his name, which I thought was interesting. They weren't actually saying Carson or Wentz when answering questions about him. So I do think that the Colts are going to actively look to move on from him. But guys, look around. I don't know really what you move on to, unless we're talking about pie in the sky options, Hail Mary shots like Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, even though it looks like they've mended the fences. Russell Wilson in Seattle. You know, you're picking through trade proposals to Minnesota for Kirk Cousins, San Francisco and Jimmy Garoppolo, who's had health issues and also some consistency issues that Wentz has had, or you're picking through the mediocre free agent market, or guys like, you know, other failed projects like Marcus Mariota. Hell, Teddy Bridgewater has a new team every single year, you know, guys like that. So I don't really know what the Colts do here. They didn't put all their chips in on Carson Wentz, but they put a big portion of their stack into the middle of the table. betting on this at the worst was going to be a 2-year bridge, but it looks like he's not even going to be able to do that for them.
Derek Schultz, Indianapolis Star, ISC Sports Network. Follow him on Twitter, Schultz975, Schultz975. Derek, we're of the understanding that in this year's draft, they don't have a 1 and a 3 because of Wentz, which therefore begs the question, well, what kind of resources do they even have to find said replacement for Carson Wentz?
Yeah, it's a great question. I believe the 3 was last year's draft.
Okay.
So the one was originally, it was a conditional 2 for this year for Philly that became a 1 because Wentz reached the snap count total. It was 75% of the snaps. Obviously, he played almost 100%. So I think they do have the 3, but still, you don't have a number 1 pick. You could trade, I guess, a future number 1 pick if you really wanted to do that. They do have cap room, and they have shown in the past that they've been willing to bite the bullet when they wanted to move on from quarterback. If you rewind, guys, to after the 2019 season, they extended Jacoby Brissett during that year. And they knew after 2019, hey, wait a minute, this isn't our guy. This isn't going to be the starter. So they dumped $25 million on Phillip Rivers while carrying $15 million for Brissett. So they had a $40 million quarterback room in 2020. And that was, so just one season ago, they were willing to do that. They have the cap flexibility to keep Wentz if they really wanted to do it, or they could cut him outright. It's gonna cost them $15 million. But he has a roster bonus that's fully guaranteed coming up here in March when the new league year starts. I'm not going to bore you with the details. $7 million there they can save, but they could hypothetically carry Wentz into next year with a new starter, or at least open up the job in training camp with somebody else, and they have the cap flexibility to do that. But obviously that's not an ideal situation for any general manager to have to maneuver. But again, this is their bed. They made it. They're going to have to lie in it now.
Boy, and I know, I think a little more highly of Jimmy G than you do, but not by much because the injury thing gets me. I think, when you mentioned Cousins, we could hear the disdain in your voice. What about Derek Carr if he's available? Is that, because I don't think that Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are going to be available. I've been of that opinion for well over a month. I think they stay where they are. So if that's the case, to me, those are the next 3. Are any of those, in your estimation, a worthy improvement to make a deal for?
Well, all of those guys are improvements. Don't get me wrong. I think Garoppolo is a better player than Wentz. I think Cousins is a better player than Wentz. But are either of those guys the long-term solution for the Colts? Maybe Garoppolo, maybe. Cousins, mid-30s. I hate to hold a team record against the guy because I think Cousins statistically has been very good, even though he's playing with loaded weapons in Minnesota, and he'd come here to Indianapolis and have nothing close to what he's had there as far as his wide receiver talents are concerned these last couple of years. But I think all of those guys are clear upgrades. Carr, to me, is in the Rodgers, Wilson, pie in the sky camp. We've been hearing forever that they want to move on from Carr, and yet he still ends up making the playoffs and, being a rock solid player. So I think the Raiders would be crazy to move on from him, honestly. But I do think that Minnesota might, especially with the new coach and GM, might say to themselves, hey, we want to move on from this thing. Do you want to take kind of our garbage and we'll take your garbage and we'll save some money and you'll be able to move on and get a little bit of upgrade? I could kind of see that happening if the Colts ended up going down that road. I think Garoppolo is going to be tough, guys, because they've already sunk a 1 and a 3 into Wentz. You're going to have to sink more picks in order to get Garoppolo. And, we'll be in a situation where if they traded for Garoppolo and cut Wentz outright, they would have sunk something like probably 4 or 5 draft picks into improving their quarterback spot.
Derek, the Colts have been a slow and steady regime here in recent years. I know that they, rolled the dice a little bit with Wentz, but they've been very conservative with the cap. They've built through the draft for the most part, etc. Do you think that Ballard, Reich, the fan base are now at the point in which they realize, we might have to be more aggressive. We might have to even contemplate, I don't know, a Deshaun Watson type of move, because let's look at the conference and we got to get a quarterback or else we're really wasting our time. And so do you think that the Colts, Ballard in particular, is going to realize, I got to really put my neck out here in the next few months. We got to be bold.
I don't think they're going to hard correct or overcorrect, I guess would be the term, to their philosophy. I think they're going to somewhat stick to it. Like, they're not just going to go nuts and spend all of their cap space now because they're not going to panic. But I do think that you mentioned the word aggressive and bold. I think they are going to be more aggressive and bold because they have to be. We're entering year 6 of Ballard and year 5. They just signed extensions, so I'm assuming that both of the brain trusts are going to be back for Frank Reich. And it's a results business, and you have to show results. And you're right, they've been pretty good, but they haven't really gotten anywhere. One playoff win in that regime together. They've just been kind of stuck in neutral. They haven't won the division since 2014. Isn't that crazy to think about how much they, in the Peyton years, they rolled out of bed and won the division every year. So, the fact that they haven't even done that is, I think, kind of telling. But I don't think they're going to blow up their philosophy. As far as Watson is concerned, I've always felt like that's a non-starter because I don't think Houston has any interest in trading him within the division. Look, we can get into, and maybe that's a topic for a different show about Watson and the allegations and whether you even want to touch that. But I think what has always kind of put that in the no category immediately is the fact that Houston and Indy are in the AFC South together. But yeah, get more aggressive and not sit on all that cap space and actually upgrade at receiver. Sure. Add a veteran pass rusher. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that there were mistakes made along the way where the pocketbook was a little bit too tight, and these areas of need that the Colts have need to be addressed. This is a good roster, guys, but it's a good roster whose best players are an offensive guard, a running back, a slot corner. Yeah, that's great. Those are great positions to have. It's great to have Quentin Nelson. It's great to have Kenny Moore. It's great to have Jonathan Taylor. Those aren't impact positions. You need to matter at the positions that matter. So if you stink at pass rush and your quarterback can't get the job done, then you're just not going anywhere. If your best players are a running back, a slot corner, and an offensive guard and an inside a middle linebacker.
Derek, really appreciate your time and your insight, and hopefully it will warm up sooner rather than later.
I was waiting for the weather, Barb. I knew that was.
Hey, well, you mentioned it.
Here in Indianapolis.
You mentioned it to Felipe when he called you. We feel like you're the one who brought it up.
I did. You guys soak in the sun out there. All right, we're gonna freeze our what's off up here in Indy.
Derek, it's not all sunshine and roses down here. I mean, we have to wear socks and shoes until about 10:30, 11 every morning.
Ah, jeez, you're killing me.
Derek Schultz. Follow him on Twitter, Schultz975. Derek,
thanks, Derek.
Very much. Indianapolis Star, ISC Sports Network. Schultz975 is where you can follow Derek.
Yeah, when they start with our producer, they've opened the door, Dave.
Totally. I did not feel like I was taking a cheap shot there. He brought it up. In fact, Felipe said, I called him, and he answered, and he didn't even say hi. His first comment was about the weather.
Right. It is tough for people. I mean, we work hard to bring a great guest list to the show on a daily basis. But for 6 months of the year, our weather's way better than their weather. And it ain't close. And they all know it when they come on. And most of them have, David, we've had frequent guests who literally after a while go, hey, yeah, my aunt so-and-so, my aunt and uncle are listed. So everybody's got a relative in Florida at some point or another.
I mean, Felipe, you called him, all right? And what did he say when he answered the phone?
He answers and immediately goes, I wish I wasn't in this 27-degree weather, freezing my bleep off. La, 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 la. And I was like,
yeah. There you go. You opened the door. Yep. Derek Schultz joining us here on Miller and Moulton. They were a team last year, Mark, top 10 in offense, defense, and special teams, and they went out in the first round. Now, granted, they had a tough draw, at Buffalo, and they lost a 3-point game. And now here they are. They don't even make the playoffs, and they don't have a ton of difference makers. No pass rush, no great receiver, no great quarterback. They have a terrific tailback. I mean, say what you will, just in their own division, Mark. Tennessee improved their pass rush this year significantly. Tennessee has 2 wide receivers to go with the tailback. And Tannehill's better than Wentz.
Last year's Phillip Rivers or this year's Carson Wentz?
Oh, last year's Rivers. And he
last year's Rivers. It's not close.
And he couldn't throw the ball more than 20 yards. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's why they called him again this year.
Right. Right. They may call him again and say, you sure you don't want to just unretire and be our guy next year? Miller and Moulton. Those of you in Tampa, St. Pete, thanks for listening this week. And good luck to your Bucks on Sunday. I will be there in the rain. For those of you in the 239, it's bonus hour time, baby. We're headed to Big D. Cowboys. Pressure's on. Got to win in the playoffs. Michael Gelkin will join us next.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M, only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
The Nolf.
What's the guy's name? Who we having on next, David?
Michael Gelkin.
There you go.
Gehlken. Gehlken.
Yeah.
His Twitter handle's
I got it. I just couldn't remember who it was. I built the whole thing this morning. I just couldn't remember what his name was.
Got it. Hey, Philly, any luck there trying to get a new spot? Did you hear any response from anybody? Because I know they have a new one. I've heard it elsewhere.
DraftKings?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need a new spot for that. It's so outdated, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
And it's been a hell of a start to the season. Yes, it has.
It shouldn't even be running.
No, it shouldn't. It's a simple question. It's a yes or no. And if the answer is no, just put it on your list to send an email and go, hey, this is a bad look.
I've got a full segment for the next one. Have you seen the story about the Portland Pickles?
No.
Oh, I have.
No.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Good.
David, it's something.
Okay. So we'll
I'm
do
getting a coffee.
So we'll do Gelkin and then the Pickles.
Yep.
Done.
We had those live reads for DraftKings, but I mean, I don't understand why we don't, or I don't know if we could, because there was a script with that. Just turn that into like the replacement of that.
The problem is, we work for somebody and he has to tell us what to do.
Exactly.
But well, Vile, I got to be honest. Are you talking about radio or television? Because I don't hear which is no longer Fusillo Kia there. It's what, Cape Coral Kia? The two young ladies doing the spots.
The crime to pay more than a dime.
I didn't think that was Fusillo Kia. I thought that was a different one, but if it is,
I thought you were talking about Kia of Cape Coral.
Huh.
Kia of Cape Coral.
Yeah, I loved his commercials. Listen, he not only will he always be remembered in this area with the commercials, but he, during a time economically when this market was really hurting, he came in and spent major money, and he propped up quite a few radio and TV stations in this market.
Holy shit.
Yes, and he did do a lot for charity behind the scenes. Took him a little while to figure out and find out, the market and where the money should go and all that. He was smart to find Mr. Galloway.
Michael's on hold and we're back in 10 seconds.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. We have a dilly of a story for you coming up in 20 minutes' time. You'll know what I mean if you stick around. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when. All that good stuff coming up in a little more than a half an hour. It's a pleasure to welcome Michael Gelkin, who covers the Cowboys for the Dallas Morning News, to the show. You can follow Michael on Twitter at Gelkin NFL. That's Gelkin, Gehlken. Michael, it's David and Mark. Thanks so much for your time. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Dildy of a story, did you say?
I
now
did.
I'm curious. I need to. I'll be hanging on after this. After we finish our segment.
Okay. It's very available. Okay. Dilly as in pickle. That's my clue. Okay. And you can run with it in about 15 minutes.
Michael, this is a very simple question. And it's basically, we've got a screen on for our Twitch audience. It just simply says, can the Cowboys win a playoff game?
I don't think there's anything in the rules that says they can't. Yeah, I would say so. They're at home. That helps. I would say they're probably overall top to bottom more talented team. They have a better quarterback than the San Francisco 49ers. To paint them as this huge favorite and capable of losing would be a real mistake because the Niners, they play really, really sound football creatively, offensively with Kyle Shanahan, what he does before the snap, after the snap. Joey Bosa, you can kind of go on. Deebo Samuel's a freak. They very much could lose this game, but can they win? Absolutely.
Why is it that outside of Dallas, you think this team is not viewed to be, quite frankly, as good and as dangerous as it is? I mean, they've got weapons galore on offense, one of the better offensive lines, and a top 10 quarterback. And for the first time, Michael, since maybe the DeMarcus Ware teams of 06 and 07, they've got a weapon on defense at every layer of the defense. I mean, I really think if this team can win one game, they can win 3.
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably some complexities to the answer. I know the Cowboys have been on, they were the most of the most watched games in the NFL all season. The Cowboys were 5 of the top 10 most watched games, including the first top two most watched games. The number 1 on the list was when they were on Thanksgiving against the Raiders and they lost. Number 2 on that list was when they were in Kansas City and they lost. There were 4 of the 5 games the Cowboys lost. So when the nation's been watching, by and large, the Cowboys have been losers. So maybe that has something to do with it. They are the most hyped team in the NFL decades running, where if you're turning on your ESPN or so forth, and there's a decent chance you're talking about Dak Prescott. They're talking about the Cowboys and this and that. It's nauseating. I mean, it was nauseating before I covered the Cowboys, 3 seasons ago, and I cover the Cowboys now. So they talk about way too much for all that is going on elsewhere in the league. It seems sometimes, but there's interest, so they do. But I think if you're a fan, you're just kind of tired of them, and if you've seen them and they're losing, and all that hype doesn't really materialize when you watch them, I think you just kind of assume that this team is overhyped. But that's not really the Cowboys' fault. They've got a lot of things in their favor in terms of health, in terms of how improved this defense has been under Dan Quinn, some of the personnel moves, be it acquisitions or just simply development of young talent. There's a lot that's legitimate about the Dallas Cowboys 2021, now 2022 team, but those things often get overlooked when people are discussing them nationally.
Well, Michael, when you look specifically at this game, and we know San Francisco is going to want to run the football, from an offensive standpoint, what's the one thing, leave turnovers out of it, but what's the one thing that Dallas has to do or has to accomplish offensively in your eyes to win this football game?
God, I'm so glad you did something very subtle there, and I'm glad you did it. You said take turnovers out of it. Because I think people say win the turnover battle is like a key to the game. It's such a cop-out because that's the key every single game.
Yes.
Let's eliminate that as to what the Cowboys need to do. Offensively, obviously the Niners are extremely stout up front. That's the strength of their defense. The secondary is a bit more in question. So you would think from a schematic standpoint, given that the Niners are about to face a team that has, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, they're going to try to make things tough from a schematic standpoint. We might see 2 high safety a lot just to kind of keep the action in front of them. So I would say the key to the Cowboys' offense is just take what the Niners have to give them. Don't be too aggressive. Don't be too greedy. At times, Dak Prescott has fallen into that a little bit when the Cowboys are at their best and people want to play 2 high safety. They'll just pick them apart underneath. That's the key, I think, for me, is just Dak Prescott staying true to his progressions, being patient over the course of the game. And ultimately, if you're doing that, you're going to help keep your defense off the field. And when you're facing a team like the 49ers that is extremely comfortable just running down your throat, the longer you can sustain drives, ultimately scoring is what it's all about. But I don't think the Cowboys offense should be in a rush to get off the field. There should be no greed on Sunday.
Michael Gelkin covers the Cowboys for the Dallas Morning News, and he's kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. You can follow him on Twitter at Gelkin NFL. Gelkin NFL. Does Jerry put any more pressure on his team, or at this point, because he's always talking, he's got 2 weekly radio bits, does the team just tune him out? Because when I saw him from afar say, yeah, this is a Super Bowl or bust season, could you keep that to yourself, or does it not matter?
Does Jerry put more pressure on him, or do players tune him out. I want a third option. I don't know. I think he definitely, to your point, is on the radio a whole lot. He's very much in front of things. Even post game, he's holding court with reporters in most weeks. Very unusual for an NFL owner. I'm pretty sure he's one of one in terms of how he talks to the media and how out there he is as part of just marketing and branding the Cowboys, which has worked very well for him professionally. So he does that. I don't know if guys have necessarily tuned him out. I definitely don't believe there's more pressure that comes from Jerry. I also don't think they've tuned him out. It's just kind of accepted that that's what he does is he's so public about things. And I think there's a whole lot of pressure that the Cowboys have placed on themselves, entirely independent of their owner. If you're around that locker room, you see a few things. You see the way Dak Prescott really leads and just galvanizes that locker room like few players in the NFL can on their respective teams. He's got a rare leadership presence. He's not going to, any pressure that the Cowboys are feeling, I think it's the intrinsic one that internally they just know what they're capable of. They believe at least what they're capable of. And so there's no independent voices, even their owners, that's going to really skew that one way or the other. And then there's veterans on this roster that like DeMarcus Lawrence. Week 2 of the season in practice, he suffers a foot fracture, a Liz Frank fracture. He's out for about 10 weeks, comes back, gets a chance to join, the first playoff team he's been a part of for a few seasons. And he understands, given the gap between appearances in the playoffs, how rare this is. And so there's urgency that comes from it. You call it pressure, you call it not, but I think the commonality is that many Cowboys players understand the gravity of this opportunity, and they don't need to be influenced in appreciating that by anything that their owner might say on publicly or privately.
They're going to have the defensive rookie of the year, maybe the defensive player of the year when it's all said and done. But to me, his biggest test is on Sunday, because I've got to think that he's going to have a little bit of Deebo Samuel, trying to stop the running game there. I mean, that to me is the game within the game. To you, how does Dallas control San Francisco's running game?
I concur. Micah Parsons is a huge part of this game for the Cowboys. He just kind of changes the whole dynamic of the game. I would say if Micah Parsons is not in the field, he will be. But if Micah Parsons wasn't part of this equation, you'd be really, if you're a Cowboys fan or what have you, I think you'd be very concerned about their ability to slow down Deebo Samuel in this running game with Micah Parsons and his versatility to be an inside linebacker. He could, you motion a running back. He's entirely capable of and comfortable of carrying that running back into the flat or boundary and covers almost like a cornerback. He's been to just full-time defensive end for 3 games, and it shows up there in different situations over the course of every game, just about. So he's extremely versatile. So when you're talking about setting the edge against the run, which is something that you have to do against a Niners team that attacks the edges, lots of C-gap type of runs. It's critical. So I think you're going to see Michael Parsons spend a lot of time when Deebo Samuel on the edge, either focusing on penetrating the A or B gap to get him to beat him to the point, or maybe to set the edge directly based on his pre-snap alignment. But the Cowboys are very fortunate in terms of if you have Michael Parsons on one side and DeMarcus Lawrence, their top defensive end, on another, that's a pretty good starting point for keeping outside contain and just making sure that there's some real contesting going on the edges and not just giving the 49ers free reign.
Michael, thanks for your time and your insight. Very appreciative. Hope things go well for you and the Cowboys this weekend. And if it does, then who knows? Maybe you're in Tampa next week and we could talk again.
Hey, there are worse dilly pickles than that, so I appreciate it,
guys. Well played.
Michael Gelkin covers the Cowboys for the Dallas Morning News. Follow him on Twitter at Gelkin NFL. That's Gelkin, GEHLKEN, Gelkin NFL for Michael Gelkin. It is an interesting point he brought up that I did not ponder at all this year, but the NFL did release the other day, they released their top 10 highest rated games of the year. And I will say, for all the good games that they gave away for Fox, Fox had the most top 10 games. The number one was that epic Thanksgiving Day game, Raiders Cowboys, that drew over 40 million, the highest rated regular season game in the NFL since 1990. But then the second most viewership was for a Cowboys-Chiefs game. Cowboys lost the Thanksgiving game to the Raiders. They lost the Chiefs game. Then the sixth highest rated game was Cardinals-Cowboys. All right. Cowboys lost that one. Eighth highest rated game, Cowboys-Bucks. Cowboys lost that one. Now the 10th highest rated game, 25 million people did see them beat the Chargers week 2. But that is an interesting point. Every time they played a big game that a lot of people watched, they lost.
They beat 3 playoff teams. Actually, they beat 2 playoff teams. They beat the Patriots and they beat the Eagles twice. That's why.
Yeah.
Look at who they've played. Look at who they've beaten. They've beaten nobody. Nobody. They've beaten 2 wildcard teams.
Patriots win was in overtime in Foxborough. I think that was the game that dropped New England to 2-4, and then they went on the winning streak.
That was Michael Gelkin. Gelkin sounds kind of like gherkin, which is another name for a pickle.
And Mark Miller with a dilly of a story next. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
But RCB, they didn't. That's the point. They didn't win outside their division at all. That's why no one trusts them. I probably should find some bad and ugly stories. Wouldn't be a bad idea. All right, what do you got for me, NBC? What the hey, I didn't.
Yeah, RCB, we talked about that. They were 6-5 outside the East. I'm telling you, I think McCarthy's in trouble if he loses.
Wow.
So the Portland Pickles are a minor league team?
Yes. What did you think they were? A major league team?
I don't know. There's all kinds of leagues in America.
Well, then if they're not a major league, what are the rest of those leagues?
Yeah, they're like minor league.
There you go.
But
you just answered your own question, Felipe.
No,
Good job.
They're also,
job. Yeah, I know you had a break. You needed to talk a little bit. Good job.
But there's like Mountain League. Like there's all.
No, they're all minor leagues. They're still minor leagues. There's the majors,
but
and everything else is considered the
minors.
Wait for it, minors.
Right, but not all minor league teams are direct affiliates with Major League Baseball.
Still minor league teams.
Still minor.
They're either an independent minor league team or they're a minor league team.
Okay. Right.
Like the Atlantic League in baseball is an independent league, and that was the league that was willing to do all the experimenting that Major League Baseball wanted done. Like they moved the mound back a foot or a foot and a half last year, and they experimented with computer umpiring and all that. They announced this year, by the way, they're not going to do any of the
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour, the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton, our final 39 minutes of the work week here on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. We will be here on Monday. I know it is a national holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but we have always worked it because it comes right smack dab in the middle of the NFL playoffs. So,
and we don't get the day off.
Well, now we don't. That is true.
When we got the day off, we took it. We used to try to substitute it for another day. There was a time in which, David, they allowed us to take company days and say, hey, we're not going to take that. And here's our reason. And MLK Day was one of them. We get it. We thank you. We're going to use this another time because we have to work. And the bosses were always like, fine. And then about 2 years before our subsequent demise with that company, they quit that. And they said, no, these are your days.
Right.
If you don't take them, you don't get them.
Right.
And we started taking it.
That was the first indication, I think, when they stopped allowing us to do comp days. All right. That should have been our first hint that maybe we were closer to rent, don't buy than we thought.
No doubt. No doubt. And, it ended up with a media takeover by David Moulton. That was his demise. And I bring that up because the Portland Pickles, David.
What?
Are a summer baseball team in the West Coast League.
Huh.
And they gave their mascot, who is a pickle, named Dylan.
Wait. The mascot is a pickle named
Dylan.
Okay.
So Dylan the pickle had taken over the Twitter account of the Pickles.
Right.
And he at first tweeted out a picture, said mascot Twitter takeover. Our mascot will be taking over the Twitter account now. His next tweet will from him. Feel free to ask him any questions. They should have known there was a problem when the first pitcher, the mascot, is holding a raw chicken, that he appears to have both hands around the chicken's throat.
Wow.
Hence, he was choking the chicken, David.
Right.
And he's a pickle.
Well,
it wasn't that pitcher that got him in trouble, however. It was the next one.
Oh, okay.
In which apparently, because the photo is now gone, that the pickle sent out a tweet, said, "New phone, who dis?" with the mascot sitting down, appearing to expose his green stuff. The team then tweeted out, "We have ended our mascot takeover. It has come to our attention that this photo can be misinterpreted for a disturbing image." The team added, and I quote, David, "Dylan would like to go on record and say that he was trying to give fans a thumbs up." He also was cited at a Florida Panther game the night before with Kodak Black, the rapper. The key of this, the whole thing, and why I find this so spectacular, is that after that happened, Manscaped, I don't know if you've heard of them, they offer razors for men to groom yourself below the waist. That's their whole marketing campaign. Okay. Brent Musburger doing the spots on the Action Network may have been some of the best live ads ever done in the history of radio. Your legs will thank you. I mean, I'm talking fantastic.
Better than when Pat Summerall was doing Stay Tuned After the Game and all the Fox sitcoms that he was.
No, this is better.
Okay.
But Manscaped came out after this picture goes out and replies, "We're hiring Dylan." Snickers' official Twitter account sent a photo of its signature candy bar wrapped inside of a pickle, writing, "Maybe you need a snickle." The pickles, being the idiots that they are, responded to Manscaped with, "This is making a bad situation worse." To which Manscaped replied, "Pretty nuts." Never let a pickle take over your Twitter account. You are asking for trouble, David.
Felipe, I will say, all right, this is my biggest fear with you. All right. It's not when you leave our mics on and our off-air stuff goes on the air. All right. It's not you oversleeping the show. It is we continue to put more and more responsibility on you. And I have a feeling one day you are going to be in charge of like show Twitter. And that, I think, because you have to acknowledge you've got a few moods, you've got a few ideas. All right. You've got a running conversation with yourself, and you could take us down a road that I just have a feeling we could have sponsors and national outlets.
Don't compare me to Dylan the Pickle.
Now, I've always thought you more of a Savannah Banana, personally.
What?
As Yinzer says in the Twitch chat room, the Portland Pickles should play the Savannah Bananas in a 3-game series. I think you're on to something there.
Oh, good story.
It was too much for a good, bad, and ugly story. There was too many layers to that to really mince into the last 30, 40 seconds of the show, David.
I agree.
And I can assure you, I will never let Felipe take over my Twitter account.
Well, I think it's going to happen one day. I do. And I think at times it will be outstanding. It'll be glorious. It'll be fresh. Okay. It'll be hip. We'll be happening. Okay. And then one day we're going to be the Portland Pickles.
All right. Can we pick some games, you and I?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to, this today was a day when and good, bad, and ugly and all that, whatever.
Right.
Just go right in order.
Okay.
Vegas Bengals.
Bengals.
Me too. You've talked me into it. I hope you're right. I did not do any fantasy football this year, but I'm in a playoff fantasy league where basically you're trying to pick guys that are going to the Super Bowl because you pick a team, you can change lineups, but you get more points. And I went heavy Chiefs. I went heavy Packers with a side of Bengals. Bills, Patriots.
Bills.
Yes. By the way, there are a few people, as we put the question out on who's going to, pull the upset, who's biggest chance for an upset, been a few people tweeting back Eagles at us.
Whoa.
Including some hosts on shows that we've had from around the country at time to time.
Wow.
Bucks are an 8-point favorite against the Eagles. I love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think that the Eagles-Bucks game is the exact opposite of Niners-Cowboys, where San Francisco is just a bad matchup for Dallas. I think Philadelphia is almost a perfect matchup for Tampa Bay.
I'm taking the Niners over the Cowboys. I think you are as well.
Yeah, I am.
Because if you weren't, that was every favorite you've taken so far. It's the first underdog you've taken, and you picked 3 a couple days ago.
Yeah, I know. I think I just got caught up in the stat because I'm only picking 2 of them.
So you and I are picking all the same then. We're both picking the Chiefs, and that means that I'm picking the Rams, by the way. I'm not picking Arizona.
Yeah, I'm taking Arizona, 8-1 on the road. And I think Kyler Murray, although Pat has pointed out the Rams have done a really good job of defending him, and I will say that the interior of the Cardinals line, and that's a bad matchup with Aaron Donald. But I don't know. The Rams have a lot of injuries. They really do. And the Niners game did not help. The Rams, as that game was going on, Mark, the Rams really needed to win it to be the 2 seed. Really needed to win it.
So we differentiate on Monday night. You're taking the Cardinals. I'm taking the Rams. Other than that, we both have the Chiefs. We both have the Niners. We both have the Bucks, Bills, and Bengals.
I'm most curious to see how the Raiders show up. They've won 4 in a row. It was quite a push to make the playoffs. Last 2 games were rough against the Colts and then the Chargers. They have the shortest week. They've got the farthest travel on top of it. And I'm curious to see whether or not the Raiders are fresh, so to speak, or whether they start out a little slow. That's I hope for their sake that they start out hot. Take that crowd out of it because it will be a jungle, as they like to call it in Cincinnati. It will be nuts. If you weren't with us earlier, 31 years since they've won a playoff game. 1990, a year before the Lions.
And a year before the first text message was sent. There has never been a text message that said, congratulations on your playoff win, Bengals fan. Will we send it out Saturday evening?
And I do think the Bengals, if they win, that's a pretty good matchup for them because, I think the 2 and 3 seeds are winning. So the Chiefs and the Bills are going to play in the next round, which means the Titans play the winner of Raiders Bengals. Whew. You know what? Cincinnati's never, ever, ever in their history won a road playoff game. I think they'd have a real puncher's shot against my Titans. It'll be tough to pick against RT17, Mark, but I have just a bold man crush for Joe Burrow. Haven't had a man crush on a quarterback like this since Andrew Luck coming out of Stanford.
I was going to beat you to that. I knew the last one you had. And after I watched Andrew Luck in Pittsburgh get just the what beat out of him and just kept getting up, slapping guys in the rear end, I understood why you had that crush. Boy, Indianapolis is looking for another crush. They're just looking for anybody to have a crush on back there.
Tough to feel sorry for them. They had 25 years of Peyton and Luck.
Got one.
Yeah, only
got one.
Yeah. Hey, it's the same with Rodgers and the Packers. If they don't get it done this year, to have 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play and to have each one of them only get one, you kind of feel like you underachieved, right? Miller and Moulton. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap today was the day when, and some final thoughts all coming up here on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Boy, look at that. A Brenneman reference.
Huh?
Remember Brenneman's apology? And in the middle of it, he said, and there's a deep drive by Castellanos, and it'll be a home run. So in our Twitch chat room.
What do you mean no sound on? What do you mean no sound on Twitch, Sonny? There's been sound on Twitch the whole show.
He's probably trolling.
No, that's someone I've known since I was 12 years old.
Oh.
So no, he's actually not. But thanks for that one. That's why I called him by a different name than his name. No, I mean, we've had no problem. When that happened, Sonny, refresh. It actually happened to David during the show. Huh. Don't know. By the way, Sonny, I don't know how you guys deal with Steele as a football person. He doesn't know anything about it. He couldn't play it when he played it. And yet you guys all have to deal with his nonsense about Michigan. I feel badly for all of you.
Well, Logic Man, I agree. But here's the deal, though. Do you think you can run against the Bucs the way you normally run? Now, the Bucs run defense this year is not the Bucs run defense last year, but I mean, you don't have a ton of big play guys on offense. You're going to have to grind out a win. That's tough to do against the Bucs. The teams that have beat them, the only one that grinded out a win was the Saints, and that's because they pitched a shutout. $40 yards a quarter. That's what the Eagles need running the ball. 40 yards a quarter. Against Tampa, I think that's a lot. I think rain's a good possibility from what I understand.
So, David, at what point did your wife and daughter quit arguing with one another?
Believe it or not, early high school.
Okay. Because, not being in school this week, they were doing the homework down there. And it looked like the two were about ready to come to blows. And she's 7.
Beef.
Yeah,
And-
Mark and I are both blessed with daughters that have more of our personality than their moms,
and every bit of their mom's brains.
But they listen to us, and it infuriates both moms.
Yes.
That
got the best and worst from both.
Yep.
It is something.
Yep.
Mark, I have to ask you really quick, just because I was confused. Why is your son such a big Georgia fan?
His mom went to Georgia.
Ah, there it is.
Her uncle played football at Georgia. Whole family's Georgia fans.
Right. Got it. I understand.
A few of them got kicked out of Georgia. 2 uncles. 2 of his cousins.
Nice. All right. We're back in 15.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"20 minutes before the top of the hour, the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. And now, without further ado, it is time for
Leave it to the oldest guy in the show, and definitely the oldest soul to live in the past. Here's David Moulton with Today Was the Day When...
Don't go back that far, actually. I mean, I could. There was this day in 1784 when actually the end of the Revolutionary War was officially ratified.
All right. So how far back are you going?
But I'm only going back to 1940. Baseball Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis. Mark, I've never heard of this story. Maybe you have, since you are a Tigers fan. Commissioner Landis granted free agency in 1940 to 91 members of the Detroit Tigers organization. I don't know why.
He must have been really pissed at their owner.
I was going to say, I don't know.
What do you got to do to basically have the whole organization go free agent?
Right. I mean, I'm going to look up the backstory after the show.
Huh.
It was on this day in 19...
Did he have a lot of money on the Rangers, or what's going on here?
Oh, look at you. Going a little 1940. That's well played, Dennis Pott fan. Well played. 1943, FDR, all right, meets Churchill in Morocco. He took off on a plane from Miami. The significance? It's the first time a U.S. president ever traveled by plane to meet with another world leader. 1943. 1951 was the first ever Pro Bowl. It was played in the LA Coliseum. The American Conference beat the National Conference 28-27. Otto Graham, your MVP. 70 years ago today, The Today Show premiered on NBC.
I wonder if they even know that this morning.
I'm guessing they do. Otherwise, the entire promotions department is being fired. On this day in 1956, Mark, Little Richard releases Tutti Frutti.
And the irony, well, I'm just going to let it go.
Right. Right.
Just
Should we tell the Bill Maher joke or no?
no.
Probably just move on.
No.
Elvis on this
Look
day.
it up.
Yes.
Google
Elvis,
it.
on this day in 1960, was promoted to sergeant.
He knew nothing.
He was in the Army for 2 years, and he made it to sergeant. It was on this date in 1963 that George Wallace was sworn in as governor of Alabama and gave the infamous segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever speech. And the Kennedy and then Johnson administration said, yeah, we'll see about that. So
Did the Johnson administration did they really want to?
Yeah, actually they did. They probably did more than the Kennedy administration.
Okay.
1966, David Bowie released his first ever single on this day. Can't Help Thinking About Me. 1968, the Orange Bowl, Super Bowl II. Now, first off, remember, Super Bowl III was also played in the Orange Bowl. I mean, talk about how this league and this game has evolved. Back-to-back years, they had the game in the same stadium.
Who wants this? Miami? You guys want it again? Seemed to work out okay. Hey, you guys okay if we do this in Miami again? Yeah, sure. I don't have a problem. We can have the league meetings there. That same cocktail waitress working at the hotel, I'm in.
Packers beat the Raiders 33-14. Bart Starr, your MVP. It was Vince Lombardi's last game as head coach of the Packers. 1972, Sanford and Son premiered on NBC. 50 years ago today.
It's such a good show.
It really is.
The things that Red Fox said on network television are just staggering.
Come here, dummy. 1973, Elvis did the TV special Aloha from Hawaii. Still to this day, the most watched show by a single entertainer in television history.
Big revival for his career there.
Huge.
Post-Army, the Beatles, the Summer of Love, all those things that happened. Elvis kind of was by the wayside doing cheesy movies.
Also on this day, the Dolphins complete the undefeated season, winning Super Bowl VII, 14-7. Anybody remember who the MVP of Super Bowl VII was?
Zonka?
No, he was Super Bowl VIII. Safety Jake Scott. 1974, the World Football League was founded. 1976, The Bionic Woman debuted on ABC. It would also later air on NBC. A year later, Mark, Fantasy Island, 1977, debuted on ABC. In 1978, the final performance on this day of the Sex Pistols. It was in San Francisco.
I think by that point, that was just Spot on tour because they couldn't get venues anywhere. It was kind of almost a code thing that Spot on tour was Sex Pistols on tour.
Mark, this one's for you. 20-year-old Wilfred Benitez on this date.
Oh, man.
Here we go. On this date in 1979, 20 years old, wins a 15-round split decision over Carlos Palomino, who was a hell of a welterweight champion. And that's how good Benitez was.
From the lightweights to the welterweights for about 8 years, there were just so many terrific boxers.
Yep.
Just so many terrific boxers.
And in a few more years, that's who Sugar Ray Leonard beat. I think later in 79, maybe in 80, that's who Leonard beat to become champion of the world was Benitez. 1984, Madonna sings Holiday on American Bandstand.
Oh, and then she told Dick Clark asked her what she wanted to do. She said, I'm going to take over the world.
Yeah.
And she was pretty accurate.
Yeah, she really was. It was on this day in 1993 that David Letterman announces he's going to CBS. His last ever guest, by the way, of The Late Show on NBC, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. It's the only time Letterman ever got Springsteen between both networks. He got him to do his last segment in which Bruce played 2 songs, and they went nearly
way over, right? They were way over.
Right. And Dave was just letting them play. And it was 2 years ago on this day that Alex Cora was fired by the Red Sox. The whole sign-stealing Astros scandal. That lasted a year. And at the time, you and I even said, why don't they just suspend him? I mean, we all know they don't want to fire him. We all know they want him back. Mark, Dave Grohl is 53 today.
It's my man crush. I want to have a whiskey with that guy more than anybody on earth.
Jason Bateman is also 53. LL Cool J is 54. Actress Emily Watson's 55. Apollo Creed is 74. Carl Weathers. Faye Dunaway is 81. Big Daddy Don Garlitz, the pride of Tampa, Florida, is 90.
Anybody else think he was going Big Daddy Kane there other than me? Sorry.
And Byron Leftwich is 42. Do we think he'll be a head coach before he's 43?
Ooh.
Because I don't think he's getting the Jags job. I know everybody else does. I don't. 3 somewhat famous people were born on this day. Benedict Arnold was born on this day in 1741. Mark Antony. No, not once married to J-Lo. I'm talking, Greece, Roman 83 BC, that Mark Antony. And unfortunately, he died last year.
Mark Antony?
No, former Pro Bowl. His career may have, but Vincent Jackson would have been 39 today, but he tragically passed away last year. And that was the day when.
In case you were wondering, Big Daddy Kane, also 53 years old. He'll be 54 in September. That leads us directly to...
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
They tell us all the time, listen to your mother. Listen to your mother, David. We've all heard it a million times. But this 37-year-old Detroit area woman did listen to mom. She was at Flappers Cafe in Lincoln Park with mom, playing some Keno. Mom said, the Fast Gas jackpot's more than 1.6. Why don't you give it a try? So she played it. She won $1.682 million.
Wow. All right.
She said she's going to buy a new house, pay off student loans, and take her son on a trip to Disney World. Does not say one thing at all about giving any of that money to her mother. Unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, is mom at least coming to Disney? For the bad, we go to Fort Myers, where police are looking for the driver of a pickup truck that was crashed early Friday morning. About 3 a.m. this morning, a driver ran away after crashing into a ditch and hitting a palm tree in Veronica Shoemaker. As of 8:30 a.m., police confirmed they have not found the driver and are looking into the incident. Shouldn't take that long before we find this guy, as he's sleeping off his buzz and trying to make sure, on top of fleeing, he doesn't get the DWI. Finally, the ugly, we go to New Zealand, where Zane Welding thought after he went swimming last week, he had some blockage in the ear, David, and he thought, had some water in there.
Right.
Turned out he had a cockroach in his ear.
Oh, wow.
And he had it in his ear for 3 days. And every time he kind of, squish the ear trying to itch it, thinks that he was squishing that thing in his ear. But he's going to make it. He'll be fine. The doctor pulled it. He felt a pop as it pulled away and felt instant relief. Said it still gives him the creeps, and it should give all of you the creeps on today's Good, Bad, and Ugly.
La cucaracha.
That's our hourly contribution from Felipe here on Miller and Moulton. All right, big night in the NBA. We got 9 games scheduled. Heat in action. They're hosting Atlanta. They're only a 4.5-point favorite. That's interesting. I think
After beating them by 25 the other night?
In Atlanta. I will say, great ESPN doubleheader tonight. It's Golden State and Chicago.
Ooh.
Second best record in the West against best record in the East. That's the early game. Dallas at Memphis. Grizz going for 12 in a row, and the Mavs have won 6 of 7.
You know what happened the last time Luka was at Memphis? Made a game winner.
Look at he is geeking out over there. NHL, 4 games scheduled. One of them's not going to be played. Panthers will host the Stars, however, at 7:00. Only 2 ranked teams in action in college hoops tonight. The irony is it's Michigan and Illinois, and it's not Michigan who's ranked. They're only 7 and 6. They're a 10-point dog at the Illini.
They haven't played in a few weeks. They have had COVID running through that team. They've had to cancel game after game after game. That's probably the reason they're a dog, and that's the reason that they're not ranked. They've had a hell of a time just fielding a team this year.
Mark's picking the Niners to be the only road team that wins. I've got Frisco and Arizona winning on the road. Mark, have a great weekend.
You do the very same. Safe travels.
Miller and Moulton. We'll talk again Monday here on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous